That's Cobbs in motion. It's Tagovailoa circling out of the pocket again and sprinting down the sideline. He's got Monk in front of him and a touchdown.
This is 365 Sports, powered by Sikkim365.com.
In the Michigan territory, Stroud winds up, throws a deep ball sideline. Caught! Touchdown! Marvin Harrison Jr.
365 Sports is presented by IdealMRI.com. High-quality MRIs for $497 or less. IdealMRI.com. Your health is important, so is your budget.
From the 30-yard line, Singleton with running room. And then he turns on the Jets past the 50-yard line. Stays in bounds. They will not catch up. Singleton all the way.
365 Sports is also brought to you by Texas Farm Bureau Insurance, protecting Texans since 1952.
McCarthy under pressure, back shoulder throw, caught. Cornelius Johnson breaking it, still on his feet. Cornelius Johnson sprinting. Touchdown Michigan, 69 yards.
Have you subscribed to our YouTube channel? Search 365 Sports on YouTube. Brought to you by TFNB, your bank for life.
If you're Tulane. Pratt going to take out his do-it-yourself kit and picks up the first down.
365 Sports is turbocharged by Unite Private Networks. Find out more at uniteprivatenetworks.com.
And that's picked off. Roadrunners have it. Need some blocks, and this could be 6. The blocks are made inside the 10, the 5, touchdown. Dadrian Taylor.
Now here's Paul Catalina and Craig Smoak.
Welcome in 365 Sports. Exciting stuff today. We've got Tim Brando at 5 o'clock. But before that, Jeff Traylor at 3:30, one of our favorites, says, Media Day's all... There's none next week, right, Craig? I think this wraps it up because next week would be practice.
Yeah, I think so,
So this week wraps it up. So Media Day's going on now. A lot of different things, comments. Tony Petitti on expansion of the Big Ten and how that's not his goal for right now, and the directive he's been given from the presidents, plus Marchand and Arond kind of musing on what George Kliavkoff and the strategy of, announcing that the more people that come to the table, we're going to make more money is kind of a strange one, Craig. We can talk about that in a second. But, Media Day is going on today, and for the most part, sunny and fun. Northwestern didn't have a lot to say. David Braun didn't comment on a lot of things, and understandably, he can't. They asked him about the coaching staff being involved in hazing. He said he can't comment on it. Again, it's ongoing. There's lawsuits. There's all these things going on he can't comment on. I feel David Braun's been on that staff for a very short amount of time, and he's now the head coach, the interim head coach at Northwestern. And I know what it was like for Jim Grobe when he was the only guy wearing green and gold that was speaking into a microphone, and he'd been on the job. He was living in a hotel. He hadn't even thought about, a house or whatever was going to happen in Texas. He'd been there long enough essentially to pick up shirts and, they're going to tell him where his office is, and here's your university cell phone. Now go to Media Day. So David Braun has a little bit more time on the job, at least being in the locker room and all that. But I just remember that and still think about poor Jim Grobe having to take those bullets.
Yeah, that was a really bad day. That was an uncomfortable day for him, I would imagine. Although, the saving grace for Jim Grobe was that he got paid a good amount of money for basically falling on the sword over and over again. So that was a weird year where you had an entire coaching staff minus the head coach who had been replaced by this interim that was a veteran in the game in Jim Grobe, but really had no connections outside of Grant Taft to the university, and had to take over a staff that not only was a bunch of guys familiar with the former head coach, but were in many cases related to him. And so, that made for an even more complex situation than I think it had just been, a whole new staff rolling in and having to deal with questions from the media about such a just an ugly subject. So it was funky anyways. It was a funky fit, but it's kind of the best they could do at the time to just get something off the ground. And, I admire Jim Grobe for coming in. There's people that try to, and look, I don't want to dwell on the one or two idiots that like pop off, on occasion, because it's like, why pay the attention? But I remember back then, it was, one or two people was like, well, yeah, you got paid a lot of money to do it. And it's like, okay, yeah, I get that, but it's still not a fun job, nor does he really need the money. So, it was a kindness of his heart type of move more so than it was a financial move. And he could have just stayed retired and been fat and happy and played golf and done whatever. And he decided to come in and just take bullets that he had absolutely no part of whatsoever, like not even a sliver of a connection to anything that had occurred. And he gets in front of the media that first time and just gets lambasted like he was the one in charge the entire time. It was the most bizarre, uncomfortable thing, but I will always respect him for handling that the way that he did, the best that he could, and just basically probably like blacking out and just getting through it, to the other end of it. And, it was an interesting season. They started off really well and then faded down the stretch in a major way, and then it all fell apart after that, and enter Matt Rule eventually, and then Dave Aranda a few years later. So, that I don't know if that's the track that Northwestern will go on, but I do have some sympathy for having to be the one that's up there answering questions that you really don't have much connection to, and that also is about just such an ugly subject. Yeah. I mean, that's it'd be one thing if it was like Free Shoes University, no disrespect, Paul.
No, it's
but if it's like, the guys are stealing clothes or something, or they're getting deals, on whatever from the register person, that's one thing. This is totally different and just ugly in every way. And so, that's a tough seat to be in, and I have some respect for handling that as best you can.
By the way, when you have a hookup at Dillard's, you don't get your discount all in one scoop.
Right.
You go back like once every 2 weeks for 3 months,
Exactly.
and then get your jeans. Like,
that's where they aired for sure.
Come on. If you're going to scam, you got to spread it out. Don't be greedy. No, but and this is, Paxton, thanks for reminding me of this, but now in its Big Ten Media Days continues, like Minnesota is one of those teams, and there are former players coming forward talking about PJ Flex culture at Minnesota, and we'll see where that goes. But I don't think we as college football observers and fans need to be naive enough to think that Pat Fitzgerald's program is the only one that had something like this going on. No. And it's different levels, obviously, of when things get out of hand. Florida A&M had their band is very famous, very great band that they have, and they were, I think, suspended for like 2 years or something like that, where there was no Florida A&M band because a kid died during hazing because it had just been let go for so long that it was just so out of control. So there are like levels of things, but those are going to keep popping up, as former players and coaches that are maybe too old school or have this stuff that never really had any oversight of it. Those things are going to come to light more and more, or we're part of it. And like, here's how we, dole out justice. So those things are going to keep coming up. But Craig, let's dive into, you mentioned, because it just came down as you walked in the door today. Andrew Marchand, John Alran have a fantastic podcast on sports business. Those are the two guys that cover it. Marchand for the New York Post and Alran for the for Sports Business Journal. And they were kind of confused by the tact the Pac-12 has taken announcing there's more people at the table.
Yeah, I mean, they dropped a clip on one of the Twitter feeds a couple hours ago, and I didn't see it until, it was on the way over here, but I was able to check it out, and it was a very interesting clip where I think it was, now I'm getting them confused in my head. I think it was Marchand. Marchand was talking about the Pac-12 deal and what was said by George Kliavkoff last Friday in Las Vegas, and the basic gist of it from his standpoint was that it's just a sort of weird strategy to go up there on stage and tell a bunch of people that the conference is going to end up with a better deal from their TV partners because of the waiting game. It was just kind of like, that's just a weird thing to say when the TV partners are still negotiating with you and you're basically bragging about the fact that you're going to get a sweeter deal because you're dragging it out or it's being dragged out for one reason or another, which I hadn't really thought about it that way, but the way he phrased it, and he probably phrased it better than I did, it's It's actually under Andrew Marchand's. I think it was Andrew Marchand that said it now that I'm looking at it. Yeah, Andrew Marchand's Twitter. It's one of his last couple of tweets, the little clip of that. But he just said, like, yeah, it's just kind of a weird strategy to go up there with no deal in hand, talk about what a great deal you're getting, especially the longer you wait, it's going to be more lucrative. And then meanwhile, your TV partners potentially are sitting there listening to this like, really, you're bragging about like this deal and how you're going to get this sweet benefit while we're sitting here negotiating with you. It is, when you look at it that way, just kind of a strange tactic, especially when you still don't have anything in hand. And so really the message wasn't anything in terms of information. It was more just his reaction to that from Kliavkoff, as well as just he doesn't see where it's coming from. He doesn't see where this magical deal that is going to be like super satisfactory is coming from. Now, he's like a lot of other people like us that are saying like, look, we have no idea what's going to happen in the long run. I know we all have our opinions on what we think will happen. I know there's a lot of just like throw stuff out there, and then if it doesn't say, oh, I didn't say that, or if it doesn't, see, I told you so, and I don't think we want to play that game. So that's why I said the other day, is in regards to UConn, like I could be totally wrong, but I don't think they're joining the conference right now, even though there's a ton of smoke. I don't know if that's even accurate. Even though there's a lot of Twitter chatter about it over the weekend for some reason. So I still maintain that, and I'll be glad to eat crow, like I said. But that's my opinion on the matter, and it's not a report. It's my opinion. And so his opinion was, I still just don't see where this deal's coming from. And he's kind of just like us, I think, wondering what that's going to look like, where that's going to come from, and what that's going to entail. Garrett,
I have the video. Do y'all want me to play it?
Yeah.
Can we play it?
Yeah.
Okay.
We'll take a shot.
All right, here we go.
The way that this story is unfolding, this is how it ends in a not a great way for the Pac-12, right? Because their presidents have put out a lot of deadlines and said we're going to have a deal and we like a deal. And then, I wrote months ago, watch Colorado. Now there's a lot of watch UConn as well as Colorado. You look at it and you wonder where this deal is coming from, because when there's reports saying that there's other entities involved, like someone had the other day, Fox, and like Fox is not really involved, and Fox would, I think they would do a very advantageous deal for Fox, which I don't know if that keeps even the conference together, like how that works exactly. So I don't know where, like none of these stories say a network. They just say that there's nothing to worry about. It's going to happen, but they don't tell you where. So my question to you, John Oran, master of sports business media, where are they getting this deal from, in your opinion?
I mean, if he was reading off the teleprompter, I've covered media deals for a long time. It's sort of my stock and trade. I love covering these rights deals. Like, you don't want to talk about, the longer we hold out, the better the deal gets. I mean, you're almost taunting the people that you're trying to do deals with. It's a bizarre strategy to try to see this over the finish line. So, will the Pac-12 get a deal? Yes. Will it be a deal that keeps the Pac-12 intact? That's I don't know the answer to that.
If I'm like,
I'll just a mix of guys there.
Yeah,
both of them.
Yeah, I'll make my prediction. I think it's going to be Apple. I do. I think it's going to be Apple. I think that they're always the conference that is, for better or worse, willing to take that chance. And if it's, especially really when you get down to it, you can maybe take the risk on the lack of exposure if you get the dollar figure you want.
Sure you can.
Because that can maybe bridge the gap, and you can see what the lack of exposure really is. So you're going to do a 5 or 6 year grant of rights from 2024 to 2029 or 2030, and that should give enough time to have a reasonable, like, did this really affect recruiting? Does it not? And then you might see all of a sudden a mad dash. And that's very optimistic for the Pac-12 to think that they're going to, I think it's a little too early for that to make the switch. But look, right now, I think that they need to make a concession over what's more important, the overall dollar figure or checking off a lot of boxes. And right now, I think it's the overall dollar figure. And even if that puts you technically in fourth, even if Apple comes in and goes, we want it all, here's our overall dollar figure, you're in fourth or fifth or what, but you're within shouting range of the other Power 5 leagues. then I think that probably gets it done for the Pac-12. Now, if you have a feeling about that, like, well, it only checked the money box. It doesn't check the exposure box. And it doesn't check this box, then that would get tied up. But I think that they're going to have to start making some concessions as opposed to having a checklist and giving it to George Kliavkoff and going, make sure that it has all these things in it, because I don't think they're at that point. So, look, if John Alran tells me they're going to get a deal, I'll take it from him over every single other person that could.
Oh, yeah. No, I mean, I'd much rather hear that from those guys than anybody else and take it to the bank a lot more. I do think that that's as much speculation and opinion, though, as it is anything else. That's not reporting. That is also them just giving their 2 cents like we give our 2 cents. And that's not saying that, so like he still said he thinks that they get a deal. It's just a matter. So I think it's very interesting. I don't know if it's because the season's on the horizon or what. I know Jason Scheer had a tweet that was very interesting. So it's hard to kind of see through the smoke and see what's like just hype online and what is actually like fire behind the scenes, because I feel like we've been here, done that a few times. But given what occurred at media days and just given the timeline of where we are now, it's very interesting to see that we're even in this spot. And, it does allow, like we've always kind of said, the longer this drags out, the more that it allows for speculation and for things to potentially go wrong. And you can agree or disagree with that, but I think that's pretty obvious that, the longer you drag it out, the more of an opportunity and the more time there is for something to go off the rails for you. Now, having said that, I still think, the majority of it, if not all of it, stays together. I know there's all this heat about Colorado this week. I'm kind of like, if something doesn't happen this week, I don't want to hear about them ever again with the Big 12. Like, I'm so just at my wit's end with this whole thing. But
just do it, don't do it, and send me a press release when you're doing it. And so we'll
shout out our boy Jason Scheer here, who did put this out in regards to Colorado. And so take it for what it's worth. I mean, everybody's got their different feelings on who they believe or not. But you wonder, like, why is this week different than any other week, right? Because that's kind of where I'm coming from. Like the UConn thing that, had a few people asking about that. We've addressed that now, and would be happy to be wrong and would congratulate the Huskies. But I just don't see the need for it, honestly. I don't think it does the Big 12 a whole lot of good. I really don't. And that's not a disrespect to their program. They just won a national title in basketball. What do they need the Big 12 basketball footprint for? They just won the Natty. Why do they need Kansas and Baylor and whatever to make them better? They don't. They don't need that. I mean, if they just want to play a crazy schedule in a different part of the country that's far less feasible financially, I get that's the piece that maybe you would move towards, but I don't know that the basketball piece is so healthy that you're like, let's uproot our national championship men's and women's basketball programs and move them to farther away road trips and all that for a few $1 million more. I'm going to need some more explanation on that for why that makes sense for either side, really. But with the Colorado thing, that lingers, and Jason Scheer said, for what it's worth, I haven't been able to confirm. There's been a rumor, so again, it's a rumor, that the Big 12 has a deadline. The Colorado has a Big 12 deadline of sorts, and that's why the whole thing is picking up this week. I've noted that he's pointed out, and I've seen other Big 12 fans point out like that the messaging seems to be different. Coming from the PAC in regards, which I get. That's all eye of the beholder. Again, that could be taken however you want to take it. I don't know. I'm not going to pretend to be some expert here, but there is that. So if I don't hear something by the end of the week based on all of this, what I'm saying is I don't want to hear about it anymore, honestly, with the Buffs. Or there better be something that is like near explosion, like the time, like there's an actual clock that's ticking down to like a firm date, and then we could continue talking about it. But beyond that, I'm kind of over that chapter and feel like it's going to just end up with everybody where they are already. And the PAC moving about how they want to potentially adding teams. But those are kind of the heat of the moment things going on. And it's always good to hear, a couple of guys like Marchand and Alran who don't have a dog in the fight either way. They're just guys covering the game. It's interesting to hear them talk about it. So, that's kind of where we are at the moment.
Yeah, I think it's kind of funny. That Colorado is the worst team in the Pac-12 for the last few years maybe not by a long shot because Arizona has been struggling too. But Colorado's 1-11 last year. And for the last 6 to 8 months, They have dominated the conversation because they hired the most famous possible person you could hire to be their head coach. You know, outside of like J-Lo is your new head coach here at Colorado. We're going to see if it works. Ben Affleck will be here sometimes. And then all the realignment things, which it doesn't, at least PR-wise, do them any good to be like, to just completely say no. So people are talking about Colorado, and that's the most talked about 1-11 team in the history of 1-11 teams.
Yeah, and I'm just hesitant to really dive in and believe too much of that. Just, I feel like there have been a lot of times where there's just been stuff that's been made up to keep the cycle churning, or there's stuff where I guess just people have bad sources or whatever the case may be. And that's not a knock. That's just like kind of just the 2 years that's been talking about this. Okay, there's been some shoddy reporting at times. There's been a lot of deadlines that came and went that meant absolutely nothing. There's been a lot of meetings that fizzled out and turned into nothing. And there's been some things maybe along the way that actually had some substance to them. But yeah, it's hard to see through some of that stuff. And so I maintain the opinion that I had earlier this week about UConn. I just don't see the benefit, as I just explained a moment ago. The Colorado thing, I mean, I suppose until they say for sure that, but they said last week they reaffirmed their commitment, so I don't buy that either. I think that they're waiting on a TV deal, and I guess my opinion on it is it's probably, I guess it may not be as great as people expected it to be for those who expected it to be better than those who thought it was going to be a shoddy deal. But I still don't believe that that's enough to actually cause any major changes. Does that make sense? That's kind of where I am on this whole thing. And that's really where I've been pretty much the entire time. I think I've probably given a bit more of an optimistic tone at various points over the last year for the Pac-12's potential to land a deal. But now here we are, and it's like, okay, like if it's like, what could it possibly be at this point? So throw that out of the way. It's a lot of noise once again, but again, we've been here 50 times in the last 2 years. So why is this any different? Maybe there's a deadline from the Big 12, as he alluded to. Maybe there's not. By the end of the week, I hope there's some put up or shut up in one way or another.
Yeah, absolutely. By the way, when it comes to Big Ten expansion, Tony Petitti had this to say today. All the direction I'm getting from leadership, our presidents and chancellors and our athletic directors, is to focus on USC and UCLA. We have a lot of work to do there. I'm proud of the scheduling format we created in football. I think it touches on all the right things. But we have significant work to do in scheduling for our other sports, especially our Olympic sports, to come up with the best solutions. We have a good plan in motion. I think we'll learn from it. Like anything, there'll be tweaks and changes, but overall, that's really where we are. I'm not getting direction to do anything else other than that in terms of what the conference looks like right now. And the Olympic sports are not going to make them money, but they're going to cost them money. And I do think that they need, like, it is probably wise for them to go through a couple years of finding out how you make this work with everything else you're going to have to do to see if it's worthwhile to add anything else into that big, mix of cross-country flights that you're going to have now. In some sports that wouldn't normally fly for some of these conference games. If you're UCLA softball and you have to play a game against San Diego State at their place, then you didn't have to fly to that. You just got on the bus and you went down there. Well, now you don't, even if that's a non-conference game, you might still do that, but now you wouldn't have to, necessarily fly a lot of other places if you're budgeting and all that. But now you have to worry about, okay, how do we get to Lincoln and how do we get to Piscataway and how do we get to Madison all throughout the year? So I think they've got to figure those things out.
I think that they've been very clear for like a good year now that they're not expanding. I think that they've said that multiple times from multiple people. And that's the part of the overall expansion story that continues to come around and create all these other little side plots is what about Oregon and Washington? And that's been out there as a talking, point or as a conversation for, ever since the Oklahoma-Texas story, really. And certainly the year after with USC and UCLA. And I'm with you, Paul. Like, there is no rush. They don't have to hurry to the table and beckon these other Pac-12 schools or run over to the East and go grab those ACC schools. Like, it's fun to think about. It's fantasy booking. I have, a a lot of fun, with things like that, of booking these ideas and what could happen, whether it be college football or the NFL or pro wrestling or whatever. I understand the enjoyment in that, but I've just seen nothing of substance whatsoever in the last year, probably longer, that gives me or anyone else really any indication that that's in the works. So I think they've said now multiple times, we are onboarding these two and we're going to see how that works out. And I trust that that's what they're going to do, because you know what? That makes the most sense. There is no reason to hurry and add more. You are in a fine spot. You're starting a brand new TV deal. You've got two schools that are going to be your experiment on how the travel and how all these other things with, gymnastics and Olympic sports, how all those things work, the midweek trips for the non-football sports. How does basketball work? How does baseball work? How do all these things come together? What are we talking about? Why are they going to go blow that up right now while they're right in the midst of starting it all up? Just for the sake of adding teams, they can add whenever they want to, basically. I mean, they can go add them whenever they want. So I understand there's exit fees, but we're talking about one of the two richest conferences, so those don't really bother me. And what exit fee is there until there's a contract signed? So, there's not even an exit fee to pay right now. So, yeah, I get why that's fun to think about, but there's nothing actual of substance, it seems, to that. And, I'd gladly be proven wrong by some expansion bomb tomorrow of the Ducks and, they're moving. I would love to be wrong about something like that, but I just don't see any reason to believe that that's in the cards in the near future. So that remains status quo, and the Big Ten is fine where they are. I am curious of what their long-term plans are, but I don't think that's something we'll know for quite a while, because, again, they're dealing with this latest bombshell. Can they enjoy the LA schools first before they start pivoting to conquering the rest of the country?
We haven't seen USC and Ohio State play once yet. We haven't seen that one time, and everybody started I would like more of that.
Yeah, I want Oregon Rutgers. I want to see Washington and Ohio State. Let's try out the LA schools first and see how those work.
Let's do let's sample before we order the whole buffet. When we come back, UTSA head coach Jeff Traylor, friend of the show, joins us. This is 365 Sports.
Alan Samuels, Dodge Chrysler Jeep Ram Fiat. How crazy is this? 2023 Jeep Gladiator Sport totals values of $4,000 plus 1.9% financing for 72 months. How crazy is that? Or the 2023 Jeep Compass, get 10% below MSRP. That's right, these deals are hot, just like our summer days in Texas. Remember, first responders get another $500 in savings. So come find the Jeep that's right for you and save big at Alan Samuels in Waco. Make this the summer sales event at Alan Samuels during the hot days of summer. And this month in July, get legendary 2023 Dodge Chargers or Challengers, SXT, GT, or RT models. Your choice with total values up to $2,000. Alan Samuels in Waco is the place for you to shop for your next Dodge. Shop the greatest selection in Central Texas and find the hot rod for you. Come by and visit the showroom at Alan Samuels Dodge Chrysler Jeep Ram Fiat. See the Demons and Scat Packs they have loaded the sales floor with. They won't last long, as you truly have the last call models of legendary muscle cars only at Alan Samuels Dodge Chrysler Jeep Ram Fiat in Waco, Loop 340 east of 84.
Pizza, burgers, and Bears football. There's no place around Waco that serves them all other than Bubba's 33. Come show your green and gold and enjoy some of Waco's best food and beverages while watching your favorite team, the Bears. When real Bears fans get hungry, Bubba's 33 is the #1 spot for ice-cold drinks, hand-stretched, stone-baked pizzas, and bacon-infused burgers. Join us for indoor or patio dining. Bubba's 33, Waco's restaurant and proud supporter of Baylor Bears football. Sick 'em, Bears.
One size fits all. That may be all right for an adjustable belt or cheap sunglasses, but when it comes to your financial needs, no one wants a one-size-fits-all strategy. Ben Erlinson, your Edward Jones financial advisor, knows that his most important goals are yours. That's why he takes the time to understand your needs, knowing you. That's how Edward Jones makes sense of investing. Ben Erlinson, 100 North 6th Street in Waco, 254-759-8533. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
Riverbend Liquor and Wine, Lakeshore Drive, North 19th Street, right behind the bank, is a hidden gem in Waco. If you're a fan of bourbon, especially local Texas bourbons, that's where you gotta go. Balcones, TX, Devil's River, whatever it is, they've got it. Riverbend Liquor and Wine, plus the best selection of craft beers in Waco, seasonally churned out throughout the year. Whether it's spring, summer, fall, or winter, Riverbend Liquor and Wine, best selection of craft beers, a speedy drive-through window, and excellent customer service. Find out more on Instagram or just go by and see them. Lakeshore Drive at North 19th Street behind the bank.
Waco Custom Marketplace is your hometown grocery store with a full-service butcher shop and bakery. Hi, this is David Smoak. The butcher shop can take your customized orders for seafood, pork, and poultry and custom cut your favorite steaks from bacon wrap fillets to T-bone to bone-in ribeyes. Cut specifically the way you want. They have Norwegian salmon fillets, catfish fillets, sliced ham or turkey and lunch meat, variety of cheese available, and several options of sausage links. Fresh chicken breast or whole chickens, sliced bacon, pork chops, ground beef, marinated beef, and chicken fajitas, and always large briskets available, plus fresh vegetables. So the great product, customer service, and family tradition of the Bauer family continues at Waco Custom Marketplace, open Monday through Saturday. A full-service butcher shop and bakery available. Waco Custom Marketplace, 425 Lake Air Drive in Waco, or WacoCustomMarketplace.com.
Baylor Scott & White Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics, the team physicians for Baylor Athletics, diagnosing and treating all sports-related injuries, including concussions. These specialists also provide orthopedic services for athletes and non-athletes alike, whether it's knee or shoulder pain, a wrist injury, orthopedic spine care, and even an arthritis and total joint clinic. Trust the doctors Baylor Athletics trust. Baylor Scott & White Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics wants to get you back in the game.
This is 365 Sports.
The 3 o'clock hour is sponsored by Waco Custom Marketplace. Meats, sweets, Texas treats, and a cut above the rest. 425 Lake Air Drive, Waco.
We'll get Coach Traylor in a minute. Little snafu brought on by me and my big ideas, but yeah, he'll be on with us just 1 second. So sometimes I outthink myself, Craig. I'm not proud of it.
Jeff Traylor, for those who are wondering. I mean, no, you know that watching. But, yeah, UTSA's head coach will join us here in just a second, a good friend of the show. And, yeah, sometimes you do outthink yourself. We all do that from time to time. But I think everything's A-OK now at this point.
Yep. Coach, thank you so much for joining us, friend of the show. It's been on many, many times. Media Days is always kind of a circus, and we appreciate you after all this week and everything, always making time for us. Paul, Catalina, Craig, Smoak here. Smokey is on vacation in Florida. And, Coach, how do you like Media Days? Do you have fun with it, or is it just one of those things that you kind of have to get through like a dentist appointment?
I don't think it's a dentist appointment, but it's not something that, if you had to pick, would you do it or not do it, you'd not do it. But it's always good to go with Frank Harris and Rashad Wisdom. Those guys are so wonderful to be around. And you understand it's just kind of part of the deal, and it kind of lets you know football season's kicking off. So there's a lot of good things about it as well.
So there you were, by far not the only newcomer there in Arlington, but you got a bunch of schools: Charlotte, FAU, UNT, Rice, UAB, UTSA, the new American Athletic Conference. What was your experience like, just being a part of the AAC, the media, and all that came with that?
Just more, bigger, just more interviews, bigger interviews, probably a little more national, very well organized. You can tell that, what Commissioner Resco has done there and how he's, pounded on the table for those guys for so long. And like I was telling some media people, it's not like what he's saying is not accurate. He's got skins on the wall, so he can boast about what that league's done for a decade now. And it's not just somebody talking. He's got some evidence to back it up, like with Coach Fritz and Tulane last year in the Rose Bowl beating USC.
You guys have hit the ground running when it comes to entering the new conference. Do you feel? I mean, obviously, there'll be some different competition, some people you're not used to, new things that you'll see. But do you feel like you are at a point where it shouldn't, as far as your preparations, change too much than what you've been doing for the last couple of years?
Well, the league's deeper. You'd be crazy to not admit that. East Carolina, South Florida, Temple, Tulane, SMU, Memphis, those guys have been playing football for, over 100 years. And we've been playing football for 12. So there's going to be, some stuff where we've got to get caught up with as far as just our infrastructure and budget and those type of things. On the field, I think we've got a good football team. And I think if we stay healthy, which that's everybody in this business, I think we'll be able to compete. So that's what we're looking forward to.
How many people who just don't know the history of UTSA are surprised when they hear you say, well, we've only been around for 12 years in comparison, like you said, to institutions all across college sports that have been around for decades and a century in some cases?
Well, it's funny you said that. J.J. Perez, who does a great job of covering us, he mentioned that to me. He's like, Coach, you might want to remember, you're going to be speaking to a lot of people that don't know anything about us. Mm-hmm. You're used to speaking to a group that's always heard about us. So you might want to go back in there and retell the story a little bit. So when I took the podium and I said that exact statement, out of the probably, I don't know how many people were out there. Let's just say approximately 50 to 75 reporters were out there. I'd say, 3/4 of them's head kind of went back and their eyes got big when I said we'd only been playing football for 12 years. They had no idea.
Your team, you don't have in your display case, you don't have an old leather helmet. And a cracked black and white picture of a bunch of dudes with broken legs.
Yeah, great point.
Yeah, you guys, this is our helmet from 12 years ago. This is it now. It's a little bit different.
Well, we call them the original 18, and we know who they all are. And there's a picture of them in our facility, and that's pretty cool because the original 18, usually when you hear that, you think about the Four Horsemen. Yeah. Our original 18 was about 12 years ago, honestly.
You mentioned Frank Harris, and he's obviously a veteran at this point of everything. But is there – I know there's excitement and confidence in him, but how do you as a coach and as a person, is there a finality or is there any part of you that's like, hey, this is the last time me and Frank are going to be at media days? Or is that all just, hey, after the season's over with, we'll have our heart-to-heart or whatever and deal with those emotions?
No, it hit me a little bit just on this trip. Him and I and Rashad have been doing media days together now. This is 3 years in a row for us. Now, we didn't get to do it that first year because of COVID, but this is 3 years for us to do that. And when I was dropping them off with their vehicles when we landed, both of them were like, Coach, don't tear up on us. And I'm like, well, boys, this really is the last time this time. There's no more COVID years, medical years. We've ridden this thing out as far as we can together, boys. So there's no doubt that will have a place and time. But, yeah, anytime we do anything together right now, we know it's going to be the last time we do it for that moment.
He has been especially when you come into a place and you're the new coach, you don't know who the leader of the team is necessarily going to be or how that's going to jive with you. Could you have picked a better situation than Frank Harris for you personally coming into UTSA?
No way. No way. I mean, especially him being a San Antonio kid from Schertz Clemens, the underdog story, all the knee surgeries, all the shoulder surgeries, just the human that he is. His Mr. and Mrs. Harris are two of the best people you ever meet in your life. And then Rashad Wisdom, you got to throw him in there as well from Converse Judson. Yeah. Again, raised by two amazing people. And those two kids, anybody could coach those kids. I was just very blessed. They landed right in my lap when I got here.
You mentioned, what J.J. Perez told you about, hey, let people know a little bit about UTSA. On the field, what was, I guess, the message you were trying to get across or the information you were trying to get across to those who are learning about UTSA and want a little bit of preview of what they're going to see when they see the Roadrunners? I'm sure there was some triangle of toughness mentions and things of that nature, but what's kind of the messaging surrounding this 2023 team for Jeff Traylor and UTSA?
I've never backed off from being a head coach, 15 years at Gilmer to going on year 4. You don't win all these games without having a bunch of really good players. And I've got a bunch of really good players. That's how you win. So I didn't back off of that. We got 16 kids that were preseason all conference, and I was raving about the ones that didn't make it. We got some D linemen I think are really good that didn't make it. So that's where I started. I also was very honest in the assessment. We should have been 14-0 last year, but we also should have been 4-10. I mean, we played Texas good till the fourth quarter. We couldn't last, so you could possibly say that was a clear defeat. But so at the worst, we should have been 13-1, but we also could have been 4-10. We won a bunch of close ball games. The year before that, we were 12-2. We could have been 13-1. We also could have been 3-10. We've won an absolute amazing high percentage of one possession ball games. So we don't want to come across like we've got all the answers. We don't, because we know how close we've been to losing. But at the same time, we are very proud of what we've done the last 3 seasons here.
I'll call it a fun schedule. Like for an outsider that is going to watch you guys as much as I can.
I think we talked about this last time.
It's going to be fun, but I don't know how much it will be week to week, especially when I look at you've got, as from a coach's perspective of, Houston's going to run a spread type offense. Texas State's going to do that. Then you've got to practice running the Army bone, whatever they call it. And then you got to go back to that the next week against Tennessee. Your first few, that's got to be an adventure for you and the staff.
Yeah. And we get Army on a Friday night.
Oh, yeah.
So you got a short week on top of that. So that's been tough, and already in our own minds, we're preparing for it. Then we go into, a rugged conference play. We open up with Temple, going to Stan Drayton up there in Philadelphia, our very first conference game, and come back, play UAB, who we beat in double overtime last year, and then we beat them on a tip pass to win the conference championship the year before that. And they beat us 3 years ago. So that's, our league and our schedule, and, it is what it is. And when you're a Texas high school football coach, you get put in a new league every 2 years. So it's not that big of a deal for me. I'm used to waiting for realignment day in February and finding out what my new district's going to be. So we know what our new league's going to be, and we got to, suck it up and go play it now.
Based on a couple of things you just said here, as a former high school coach and also playing on a Friday night, I know that you were quoted, I think it was at the THSCA convention just a few days ago, but you're not a fan of the Friday nights for college football, are you? Or did I read that wrong?
No, it's terrible for us because we've only been playing ball for 12 years. I explained to the commissioner exactly what it's going to look like. They're going to be out there at Smithson Valley with Glenn West cheering for them with their phones in their hand, watching the Roadrunners play on Friday night. They're going to be at Converse Judson with Mark Soto with their phones out, watching that. They're going to be, Ron Ritterman at Alamo Heights. All his fans are going to have our phones out, watching the Roadrunners play. It's going to hurt our attendance. I don't think it's going to hurt football attendance. They've been playing football over 100 years at those schools and doing it very well, I might add. So I don't think it's good for any of us. So I told him if we could to keep that thing on Thursdays or Saturdays.
So, the big sports news in San Antonio this summer is obviously Wemby's coming to the Spurs. But your city is sports crazy. Can you feel like the fervor as they build towards when you guys are going to start practicing and that first game at the Alamo Dome?
Yeah, it's, I was lucky enough to be chosen, as the whatever it's called for the Battle of Flowers. I guess whatever you call that person that leads out the parade. That was me, right? Well, here you can see my country tail on this float with 6 of my football players. And I promise you, I think the numbers were like 500,000 people all through the streets of, San Antonio for that parade. And I'm going to say 80% of them were birds up. I mean, it was just incredible how much our city is for our kids. And it's a great environment, the Alamo Dome. It's 72 degrees every day. Your wind doesn't mess up your hair. There's no rain. There's none of that. And it beats the heat, really. It just beats that Texas heat. And it's just an incredible environment, and our kids really love playing there. We've lost 2 home games in 3 seasons. We lost a triple overtime game to Houston last year that just gutted us, and we lost to Army our first year. So that's a pretty remarkable record for our kids to be, somewhere around 18 and 19 or 19 and 2, I think. 18 and 2, something like at home in 3 seasons so far.
Yeah, you played in some crazy crazy fun games. I know some of them have been heartbreaking on your end, but I mean, you've been in some thrillers, and you will definitely, I'm sure, be in some again this year. Speaking of, and rounding, back to that schedule, do you as a coach know pretty quickly who your team is? Do you know that going into the season? Do you know that, let's say, after the first month wraps and you play at Knoxville, will you have an idea, or when does that kind of click into place? Is it a process for us non-coaches? Can you kind of explain how you identify that?
Well, you always got a pretty good indication. You think you know. But like last year, we were going to be a heavy run team, we thought. We thought we were going to be really good at running the football. And you get out there and you lose 4 offensive tackles before the 6th snap of your first game. When you lose 4 offensive tackles, we became the heaviest RPO team in the country for the next 6 weeks. We were throwing it way more than we were running it. So everybody's like, yeah, the triangle is toughness. I thought you said you were committed to run the football. Well, we are committed to run the football when we can run the football. Well, it's the same thing as defense, special teams. You kind of got to see where you are. And usually those first 4 games, you kind of get a good indication of that. But we think we know who we are. We got a bunch of good players returning. We did lose a bunch of good ones too. But we're going to be a good football team if we're all healthy and standing.
Coach, what was the best thing you got to do this summer away from recruiting and coaching?
Care Bear and I went to Turks and what is it, chips and queso, whatever Turks and queso, whatever that word is, man. That's the first time I've ever been. She knows I was raised on a farm and I love to ride horses, but I haven't been able to do that much as an adult because all I've ever done is coach. So she didn't even really believe I knew how to ride a horse. So she got us some horses to ride in Turks and Caicos and whatever that word is, and we were riding them in the ocean, and it was pretty surreal. I lost my dad back in December, but I thought to myself, he's got to be laughing right now watching me ride a horse in an ocean at this chips and queso right now. So that was pretty cool.
I love that Gilmer, Texas will never leave you. I love it that it's in your bones and in your soul, Coach. Thanks so much for hopping on with us. Well, we love talking to you, and we'll talk to you again soon.
I'll let David know how much I love him and praying for his brother. God bless and birds up.
Thanks, Coach. We appreciate it. That's Coach Traylor from UTSA, one of the great friends of the show. Really, and one of my favorite coaches in the entire country. Really, I'm very entertained by what they do there as a football fan. And I think, UTSA is a really cool story in the 12 years and already, competing for conference titles and being as good as they are and able to do what they're doing with a fan base that loves them there in San Antonio is a really cool story. Yeah,
they're still new in so many ways. They're established at this point, but when you hear that they've been around 12 years in comparison to, name a school, and they've been around 75 or longer, in a lot of cases 100 plus. So yeah, it's amazing. It's something you do need to remind yourself of, like, hey, hold your horses a little bit. Like, just realize this thing's still pretty fresh and shiny compared to its counterparts. And I think that makes them even more amazing. The fact that they've been able to grow as fast as they've been able to, not only as a university, but especially as a football program. And he's a huge part of the reason why. He's really good at what he does, always has been. A great identifier of talent, great coach, great culture, all those different types of things. I was looking at and I don't think it was the official AAC list, so I wasn't going to bring it up, but he had brought up like their preseason list, and this one I think was just a magazine one. But it had and it was the AAC, and it was half the guys on both offense and defense are UTSA players. Then you're talking about rolling into Tulane and those schools, and yet half of them are UTSA. So he's right. If there's anything he knows talent, and they've got talent, and they've had talent there throughout the time that he's been there. And now they've got a super duper senior quarterback with some really good players around him, like Rashad Wisdom, as he mentioned. They had some departures that, one in particular kind of stung that we talked about last time, but they're going to have talent. They're going to be well coached. They're going to be physical and nasty. They're going to be ready to play 17 overtimes throughout the season if that's what's called upon. And yeah, they might be a little bit tired by the end, but they're going to probably have a winning record, probably be going to a bowl game, and probably be competing for the conference. That's just something I don't have a lot of doubts about. And, he's someone who has something great going on in San Antonio. If you want to, project that, there's bigger things in store for him, so to speak, in the college football world, I don't think you're off base or out of pocket in any way or shape, form, or doing that. And I don't know what his future holds, but I know so long as he's in San Antonio, UTSA is going to be a team you don't really want to play on your schedule.
He's also very fortunate, and he's at a place like UTSA that he can be happy and win and get better at being a coach, build, and then not have to just go,
why did we finish 13th and not top 10 in the recruiting rankings?
Exactly.
Like
and
that
then,
kind of thing.
This school's open. I better go get that job.
Right.
He can wait around for the one that probably fits him the best because it's not like he's in a bad situation where he is.
Yeah, and I hate even talking about that really because I do feel like
I don't think. Look, if nobody ever called him and he was the coach at UTSA for 25 years, I don't think that would.
No, absolutely not. And I do know that from a UTSA fan part, that's got to be frustrating because you always hear like that eventually, so there is that. But you're absolutely right. He could be there for another 20 years, and it would not shock me in any way, shape, or form, really. And you know what? If that happens, good for them. They'll win a bunch of freaking games, and they'll be imagine if he was there for 15 more years or something like. That would be interesting to look into the future and see where that sets them up and where they would kind of be in the overall pecking order.
Well, look, Garrett, you know high school football really, really well, and East Texas pretty well.
Yeah,
and Gilmer, Gilmer's one of the 3 teams that you can always kind of talk about. That
Carthage,
Pleasant Grove,
like those teams that are always like out there. And he was in Gilmer for a very long time and content there. And you don't think after one state title at Gilmer he could have, climbed?
Oh,
right?
easily.
Easily. So, but he didn't. He stayed because I think one of the things he understands, and I hope that most coaches do, I think most coaches do, because I think the goal is, even now, most coaches want to be Bobby Bowden or Hayden Fry or Kirk Ferentz or Tom Osborne, where not only do you have a ton of success, but you're able to just live in the same city for the rest of your life, as opposed to the itinerant nature of coaching as it stands. And I know that that's not, the most likely path in coaching nowadays, but the coaches who have it and get it and can be comfortable, I think are the ones who are the most happy and usually the ones who are the most successful long-term, and not little spurts of, well, he was really good here and then he took this job and the Bobby Petrinos of the world who probably look back and go, man, I really wish I'd have been at this place longer because that was where it was really good, as opposed to, I kept trying to climb this ladder and really it was better right here.
Yeah, Garrett, you're a fan, obviously, of Jeff Traylor.
No, I am, man. Like I had the opportunity to. I lived in Gilmer when he was during the heyday, when he was coaching there, and I mean, the vibe around the community. That's what's unique about listening and talk about San Antonio and the way people are coming out and the camaraderie and the way they embrace it. It's almost like Gilmer and the culture that they were able to establish there. And yeah, I'm a real big Jeff Traylor fan. I do see an opportunity where he's probably coaching, a level up in the Power 5 ranks here pretty soon. But, yeah, you're right. And if he can keep him at UTSA for a long time, it's very unique. It would be something that I think he could make them a powerhouse, which, you're already on the verge of doing. But you're going to have to, with Jimbo, if that comes up and comes open, Dana, his name is always going to be in the mix, especially in Texas.
Yes, it's going to be in the mix whether they like it or not, no matter what. Yeah, so, that's just going to be natural, but that's just a compliment to the job they've done, and very excited to see what they do with Frank Harris back and with Rashad Wisdom and a ton of other really talented guys. So, they're going to be a lot of fun as usual. And they had a wild year last year, man. But that first month of their season with, Houston on the road, so they could, new Big 12 team Houston, that's going to be their debut. And they could go into an 0-1 hole right away, even though it wouldn't be a conference game. But, at U of H, Texas State facing his old quarterback that he coached at Gilmer and G.J. Kinney, who will be, the new head coach at Texas, or is the new head coach at Texas State. Army at home, which is just, that you're getting a different kind of pitch when you face them, just a totally different ball game than what you typically see week to week. And then at Tennessee to close out the month of September. That is a hellacious schedule with all sorts of little interesting, unique parts to it. So that's going to be a lot of fun. And then you have the whole conference schedule that follows that with, Tulane to close out the year in New Orleans. So, yeah, can't wait to see what this team does and what he does leading them. But it's going to be exciting one way or the other, that's for sure, because it usually is.
Yep, absolutely. Let's take a break. We'll come back right here, and we'll kind of get more into what we were talking about earlier. Like you said, Craig, kind of go around on that. And, it's media days. There's all kind of stuff coming out. We'll get into Tim Brando at 5, which should be at least 20 minutes of fantastic radio. Can't wait to talk to Tim as usual. This is 365 Sports.
Cars priced right, day and night. Average
the best beef in Texas your house when you order from Texas Beef House. Unleash the flavor of Texas-raised Wagyu. From our pasture to your plate, that's TexasBeefHouse.com, and joined by Marketing Director Samantha Duvall. Samantha, thanks for your time. There have been numerous holidays, and now it's just straight up the summertime. Your thoughts about some of the specials and ideas you have?
So we still have our hamburger special going on. We're going to continue it through the end of July. When you bundle our 25-pound ground beef bundle, you can get hamburger for as low as $6 a pound. And the same with our 28-pound Wagyu hamburger patties. You can also get those for as low as $6 a pound. All of those come with free shipping in Texas, Louisiana, Oklahoma, and Arkansas. We've got a lot of steaks online. People are buying up our brisket. Time to smoke a brisket. Good time to grill out. If you order and use our code SICK'EM10, you can get 10% off your order of $100 or more. And it's all grown right here in White House. We're a family-owned company. It's all pasture-raised. We just enjoy what we get to do.
Family reunion, people going out to the lakes, or people just meeting or going out of town. Where is the best beef in Texas? Your house when you order from Texas Beef House. Unleash the flavor of Texas-raised Wagyu. From our pasture to your plate at TexasBeefHouse.com.
In the market for a quality metal building? Since 1943, Pioneer Steel and Pipe has helped Central Texas residential and commercial customers with metal building design, panel options, building components, and trim options. Pioneer Steel and Pipe's residential line is energy efficient, offers low maintenance, reduces insurance payments, is impact resistant, and carries up to a 45-year limited warranty. In addition, they can also help you find a metal building contractor for your project. Pioneer Steel and Pipe with locations in Waco and Bryan and at pioneersboys.com.
TFNB Your Bank for Life is the official local bank of Baylor Athletics. Find out why more Central Texas are making TFNB their bank for life. Sign up for our Edge checking and savings accounts to earn interest or cash back. With 5 convenient locations and an award-winning mobile app, banking has never been easier. TFNB Your Bank for Life. Member FDIC.
Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness on Lakeshore Drive in Waco is a premier, elite, life-changing experience where you can change your mind, body, and soul. Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness offers 40 group exercise classes each week, including boot camp, indoor cycling, and more. If you haven't been to Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness lately, you're missing out on the improvements, with the members excited about what they see. New flooring, locker rooms have been redone, new painting, and mirrors added to the weight room and group exercise room, with a new squat machine that will test your legs and their stamina. New free weights, weight machines, TRX, rowing machines, stationary bikes, treadmills, elliptical machines on a spacious weight room floor. Personal training with Christy London, Randall Corley, and welcome Nathan Roach. 16 tennis courts plus a beautiful stadium court, and longtime youth tennis pro, the great Britt Cole, plus adult tennis lessons with Blake and Kenna, who are ready to take your game to another level. And the commitment to pickleball with 8 courts and instructor Jody Thurman. Visit the website, wacotennis.com. Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness on Lake Shore Drive next to Hawaiian Falls in Waco.
This is 365 Sports. Are you a Sick'em 365 super fan? Then try out our premium subscriptions at sick'em365.com.
Welcome back, 365 Sports. Hope you enjoyed the interview with Jeff Traylor as much as we did. We always do. Look, we got Rhett Lashley tomorrow. That's another guy I really like talking to. He'll be on at 4. He's going
to break the big Pac-12 news to us. Wouldn't that be something? No.
Yeah. It's interesting because right after him, like literally right when we're done with Rhett Lashley, we'll be calling Stuart Mandel.
Yeah, I've seen a couple comments of from Big 12 fans of the tone changing this week, right? We were kind of referencing that at the very beginning. So I think part of that was Mandel and whatever it was he wrote yesterday, I think. Yeah. And I read it, and I wasn't exactly like, wow, that's a complete 180.
I do think, I wouldn't say 180, but I do think like you can feel some of the guys who have like carried water for the conference.
Right, yeah.
Feeling a little bit exhausted with the whole thing.
Oh, I think everybody's exhausted. Yeah. And I do think there is like, okay, we're at this point. It could very well. There's like the door's not entirely shut. There's at least a crack in the door that you're acknowledging, kind of deal. So yeah, I'm excited that'll be a fun back-to-back, and that would be a great time for the Pac-12 to release some news about expansion. Would be right before that. I'd be like, hey, coach, and then hey, Pac-12. I don't know, fan but he's in Pac-12 territory, whatever. That would be a 1-2 that would be great timing wise with that. But either way, that's still going to be fun, and I look forward to talking to those guys tomorrow on the show.
SMU, I think, is a really interesting team starting out this year, where you've got Preston Stone, who it's not a transfer. It's a guy they straight recruited.
It's a big get for them.
It's a big get for them, one of their biggest recruiting gets. And he's played, and we'll ask Rhett Lashley about this, he's played actual, valuable minutes and not garbage time. Mm-hmm. For them, he's had to make key starts over his time there. And I wonder how much easier that is to go in with a guy, okay, it's your job, and we're going to prepare for this like we did those other games, as opposed to, yeah, you played, but you were either losing by a bunch or winning by a bunch. So it wasn't like they were running the full, playbook at you. So, yeah, I think Preston Stone's going to be really interesting. They lose a guy I think is going to be a really fun NFL wide receiver in Rashee Rice to Kansas City. I think he's going to fit well there should he stay healthy.
Man, it's crazy to me, and I don't want to bog down on this, but and this is time changing. That's all it really is. So I'm not accusing people of 10 years ago being complete morons necessarily, but it is just a little bit funny to me that a few years ago we're just lambasting the hell out of certain types of spreads and Big 12 offenses and all this. And now, particularly because of the greatest player playing alive today being a Big 12 air raid guy, it's just all the rage, and everybody's looking to do things similarly. But a few years ago, it'd be like they don't play defense and they don't do this, and now it's all the rage. Man, is having those types of offenses.
Yeah, it is. It's funny. You knew it was not going to be stopped when Nick Saban was trying to get the rules changed to stay out ahead of it. Mm-hmm. Nick Saban, again, I don't think he probably has some legitimate concerns. I don't believe he's a disingenuous person in any way, shape, or form. I don't think he has that button to do that. He has a way of saying things of okay, if you're going to keep doing this, then that means it's legal for me to do it too. So
yeah,
I don't think we should be doing it, but if we're going to, like NIL, I think he has look, I'm going to do it. I'm not thrilled about it, but I have more resources than almost all of you. So, make rules, or I'm just going to go, I'm just going to live out here, and then you're going to be complaining about us forever. And I think even though he enjoys the winning and the dominance, I do think he has a sense of what's better for overall in college athletics.
Yeah, I know for sure he does, and kind of sees the writing on the wall. It's almost like he gives warnings out in so many ways. But yeah, going back to SMU, they got a fun offense. That's a team that obviously wants to be in the Big 12 or if the Pac-12. The Pac-12 is probably their preference at this point. If they had to choose, it more aligns. Mm-hmm. But, with Rhett Lashley there at the top, he's got a lot of experience, obviously. He's, been in some big situations and has a great resume and is obviously a good mind that I think they did really well in replacing Sonny Dykes when they had to, make that call when he decided to go to TCU. So they're a team that's, a lot of fun. And Dykes, and then before that, Chad Morris. And for a few years going on now, they've been putting dudes in the pros. They've had teams that can score points. They maybe didn't always have a defense necessarily that played out with that. But you talk about teams let's throw SMU and UTSA out there and watch. Let's go 7 overtimes, because that's the kind of feel that you get from those programs. But yeah, I look forward to talking to Lashley, and they like Rice. That's a big loss for them. He's a really talented player, but they strike me kind of like the Roadrunners of a team where you don't really worry about them finding wide receivers or a quarterback or running backs necessarily. I think it's, do they have the D-line to be able to win as many games as they would like? But the Mustangs are in a really good spot. No matter what happens with them, they're going to have the support that they need to thrive at whatever level they're at. And I think that support could jump immensely if they were to have a bigger spot. But obviously that remains to be seen. But where they are now, they're going to be right there in contention for the American pretty much every single year. And it's a good launching point for players and for coaches as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I hope that everybody who wants to be in a big conference gets to one day, or we have a system that rewards people equally. But I'm not naive. But yeah, I think it would be cool. It'd be cool to see SMU make the jump. And again, I don't know if that's ever I don't think that's ever really going to happen.
No, that's what I mean. Is like that's what I mean. They're going to be good at whatever level they're at, really.
Yeah.
So I mean, I think if they don't get an invite to anywhere, that they'll be dominant, or not dominant, but they'll be one of the better teams in the AAC. And then I think that if they were to get that call, I think that their boosters would find every way to make them. They would buy all the Trans Ams legally that they could possibly ever want. Even though that was A&M that bought the Trans Am, wasn't it? For Eric Dickerson. Sorry, SMU. You did a bunch of other stuff. You didn't buy the Trans Am, but
they would just give you the envelopes full of cash, and
they would give you the amount for the Trans Am, right? But now that that's legal, though, that's they don't have the biggest fan base, but they got one that's got pretty big wallets, and so I think in the NIL era, they're going to find a way to be competitive no matter where they are, whether that's the AAC or that's the PAC, and obviously not going to get too crazy and project them ever playing in the SEC or anything, but that's a feisty team that can win a lot of games.
Yeah, the bad neighborhood in Highland Park where SMU is where the old Starbucks is.
Right, exactly, yeah.
The one that was
next
built
to Armstrong's house.
Yeah, the one that was built 4 years ago. No, that's the gross one. They don't even have the cups on the shelf there. Can't do that. You got to go to the new Starbucks that's a mile away.
SMU and OU in week 2 should be an interesting game.
Yeah, I think so.
I don't know how competitive it will be, but I think it'll be a good kind of like litmus test for both teams to see where they are.
Absolutely. By the way, some news from Big Ten Media Days. Ryan Day says the starting quarterback competition is still unsettled between Kyle McCord and Devin Brown. Kyle McCord is getting, most people think that it's going to be him because he's the, older quarterback. But I do wonder how, with Michigan, in spite of the hamburger suspension that we've got going on for Jim Harbaugh, the 4 games, with Michigan hitting the ground running like they are, and Ohio State trying to replace the second pick in the draft at quarterback, like, is that going to create the gap that's going to make Buckeye fans even more nervous?
Probably, yeah. I think that there's got to be some part of the fan base, not everybody, obviously. I don't like really painting with a broad brush because every has different opinions, I think there's plenty of Ohio State fans that feel like, all right, this is just naturally like cyclical. Like you're not going to win every year for the remainder of time. Like at some point, just because they invest too, out in Ann Arbor or, wherever else you want to point to, Madison, like they're going to have their day in the sun. We're going to have our day where we don't win every single game necessarily, but I do think there's probably part of it as well that goes, all right, that's a couple years in a row now. And wow, for the first time when's the last time Ohio State had a big question at quarterback? Where it wasn't just like you kind of knew that there was a dude back there that was proven. It's been a little while, I think. And so that's, you don't necessarily feel like you don't have another dude waiting in the wings. It's more of a question mark, I think, right now. And here we are, a month away from the season starting, whereas you look over at Ann Arbor and they pretty much have like most of what's coming back from last year. So they feel really good. So yeah, I think there's an element of nervousness of like, all right, where exactly is this leading? But I got to say at the same time, it's Ohio State. Like if there's been a consistent program for the last 20, 30 years, more, consistent than them, I want to see it. And don't tell me just Alabama, because that's about the only one I could think of that you could put up there. And even still, Ohio State's right there at the very top.
Hey, Ohio State just doesn't have as many trophies.
As many championships, yes, and national championships.
Yeah, they don't have as many of the national championships, but they are reliable year in and year out. They've had one down year, and that was the Tressel, suspension, the tattoo thing, which looks like all these things look so stupid in retrospect now. Terrell Pryor.
Yeah.
But look, I'll just go.
Man, he was such a huge recruit. Remember when he was a recruit? Anyway, sorry.
Yeah. So since 2014, their quarterbacks have been J.T. Barrett.
Pretty damn good. Really damn good.
Cardale Jones, who'll never have to pay for a drink in Columbus.
Did what he had to do and got out of there, yep.
Yeah. Wasn't there to play school. And then
and just thrived when called upon there at the end of that, particularly special year with their quarterback situation just being a mess. All of a sudden, he's the hero to cap it all off and maintain what had been done in the weeks prior. But yeah, that was one of the more, I don't know if it's heroic, but you know what I mean. Like one of the more impressive, just bottled up mini stretches of football was that little Cardale Jones time period when when JT Baird and Braxton Miller were
yeah. I left Braxton Miller was like right before because they moved him to wide receiver, which is what he wound up being anyway. Then the late Dwayne Haskins was a starter for them. It was a very, very good college quarterback. Then they got Justin Fields.
I really thought Dwayne Haskins was going to be something in the NFL, and I realized all these years later, and God rest his soul, but I was hoping that the Washington Redskins had finally found a quarterback, and I'm like, well, he looks the part. He's got like the intangibles, like as far as like the physical traits and an arm, and he just seems like a charismatic guy. Like, him and Terry McLaurin, when they got drafted together in that same draft, like seeing them celebrate, I was like, man, this is the dawn of a new. They finally got their quarterback, and that's not how it worked out, unfortunately. But he was good for the time that he had in Columbus. Yeah.
Then Justin Fields. Who
pretty
was
dang good.
One of the most exciting players in college football, and I think is going to have a really interesting year with the Bears this year as they kind of build up around him. Then they've gone to C.J. Stroud. So he's okay. You've got back-to-back first-round picks, and then other guys who are just really good college quarterbacks. With Urban Meyer, to his credit, that's where I think they shifted. Ohio State. And was like this for a while where they had everybody else was good and the quarterback was a guy like Craig Krenzel, and they kind of made it by like that. And then from Terrell Pryor, which I know was Jim Tressel, but then Urban Meyer kind of said, no, we're going to do what the SEC does and we're going to get these big dogs here.
It's kind of like LSU when they were winning titles, like it was Matt Flynn or
Matt Mock.
Yeah, and now they've got, guys who are probably going to be a first round, top 10 type of draft picks, so similar in that way.
Joe Burrow, that's what I was thinking too.
Yeah, Joe Burrow.
Garrett, we have some stuff going on here. I am about to send you a tweet from Pete Thamel.
All right.
So, and this is whoa. Hold on. Let me actually not send it in the subject line.
Yep, there you go.
Oh, I see. Oh.
Okay, guys.
Alive.
Here we go.
Let me get this. Hang on.
Sounds like people were talking all along, and Sam Bradshaw just had that comment, so I don't want to swipe that from him directly. But we talked at the start of the show about the smoke that's been out there this week, and, well, you want to do the honors here?
Yes, from Pete Thamel, who is, one of the best at breaking news. And look, if this doesn't come to fruition, it will be one of the first ones that Pete got wrong in a little bit. Colorado is in discussions about a move to the Big 12, and the school has just completed a board meeting and scheduled another for tomorrow to discuss the move. The Big 12 is also holding a president's meeting tonight where there's expected to be an expansion update.
Yeah, and Max Olson just posted the special board meeting tomorrow. Board of Regents will hold a special board meeting on July 27th, which is tomorrow, at 3 p.m. Are they Mountain Time Zone? So, that'd be 3 p.m. Mountain Time Zone. But they do have that on the schedule now. So, that's a bombshell. Thamel, Colorado in discussions about a move. Just completed a board meeting. Another for tomorrow. That's the one that I just mentioned to discuss it. And, that was what we talked about to start was there was a lot of smoke surrounding them. And what to make of all of it, given that there's been a lot of false starts, or at least, I guess, things that appeared similar that didn't exactly add up to a shift, so to speak. But, I mentioned with, was it Jason Scheer that I quoted earlier? Just there's a different sort of tone this week. There's a little whatever. And I said, okay, by the end of the week, if this is going to be something, it's got to be something. Well, looks like, tomorrow's Thursday, so that's adding up pretty dadgum well with being on a timeline that would be great for everybody to find out a final solution. And that is incredible news that obviously needs to be finalized. But Colorado taking the steps, and for all of the talk about there being absolutely no chance or there being absolutely nothing to anything about anything, and we've called a lot of that out at different occasions. There's obviously been something to it, but even more than maybe we anticipated or others anticipated, certainly in some cases. And, that's going to be a bombshell of a decision that looks like it could be coming down the pipeline tomorrow. And then that does change any sort of, I think, discussion about what another team could potentially look like, because that does open the door, I feel like, for a UConn. If UConn's going by itself, that doesn't make any sense to me. If they're going in tandem with a Colorado, okay, that makes sense. You've got an even number of teams. So, yeah, this would be the shoe to drop that then would potentially allow, I guess, more shoes to drop. But that is big news from Pete Thamel, to be sure.
Yeah.
Man, Twitter's going to go nuts over this. I can't even imagine, dude.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
We have, okay. All right. I'm texting
Programming on the fly. You want to take a break here?
Yeah,
well,
let's take a break so I can text some Colorado people. Brian Howell already just told me no, which is totally understandable.
News came out 30 seconds ago.
Yeah. So I mean, look, I learned from the best, when it comes to reacting to news. So
well, I mean, we can keep it here for a second if you want to text. It doesn't bother me, but yeah, I'm seeing all the reactions flooding in. Just a lot of retweets of this already. 500 retweets on Thamel's, or close, I guess closing in on that. A little over 400 retweets on Thamel's post, which was 10 minutes ago. 1,100 plus likes, and he's a national guy, so he typically gets some good feedback. But this is what everybody's been waiting for. Ross Dellinger now, the courtship between Colorado and the Big 12 has been a very public thing. The situation grew more obvious last week based on the actions of Colorado's AD chancellor, who put public pressure on George Kliavkoff to produce TV figures. And that was one of those things where, I didn't feel like anything was really status quo changing coming out of Pac-12 media days, but I do, think that there were people who looked into the way that Colorado responded about things and looked into that. And kudos, because there clearly was something bubbling up under the surface, and enough to lead to where we are now, which is an executive session and a lot of Big 12 buzz for Colorado. So, yeah, man, that would be crazy. And I'm just trying to wrap my head around it, quite frankly, because it seems like we've been waiting for so very long to get ironclad news of some kind. And this still isn't ironclad, but man, all arrows are pointing to it. It would be great to have some finality. It would be great to have something tangible and meaty to actually talk about, which this would absolutely check every single box because it's an actual move. Jason Scheer. Kiss my ass, sign management. Very nice. Ooh, boy, he's going to have fun, isn't he?
Yeah.
With all the back and forth that he's had. My gosh.
And here's the thing. I don't think that you let this news out to Pete Thamel.
Oh, no.
If it's not you can't. I don't think you can put the genie back in the bottle, right? I mean, you can, but
San Diego State, you can clearly put the genie back in the bottle.
Yeah,
but no, it's hard to imagine that. Well, here, let's put it this way. There's damage done now, no matter what. Even if Colorado were to stick around, which now seems far more unlikely, the Pac-12 has said all that they said. We talked about Marchand and Alrand earlier, and they were talking about Kliavkoff's strategy and how it just didn't really make sense. You do have, I guess the mentions of kind of, like I said, how Colorado was acting last week, and a lot of that was brushed aside. And everything was status quo and everything was hunky-dory. And now here we are just a few days later, and clearly there was something to all that. And, yeah, I don't think that it's going to be some – I'm just imagining a few people in particular, or not even a few, but a couple people in particular where the walkbacks are going to be absolutely insane, and they might delete their Twitter accounts. I mean, truly, because there's been some very matter-of-fact, you guys are morons statements that don't look so moronic now at this point. So yeah, Jason Scheer here.
I just texted him.
Yeah. I don't know if I want to delve into more speculation, but he's saying that Colorado move likely in the next 48 hours. Also, another school in the Pac beyond the rumored 4 that would surprise people contemplating a jump. So that's interesting. He's clearly been dialed in to some extent, and he's got some skin on the wall as far as this goes. But yeah, I can't wait to dive into all of the reactions to this and then what's to come as well. But yeah, I don't know what this means now as far as a next move, but let's focus on this one for right now, because this is an actual potential move, and it's a big one.
Okay, I know he doesn't cover Colorado specifically, but he's been all over this story from the beginning. Jason Scheer, he's been on the show a lot. Mm-hmm. He's going to come on with us in the next segment.
Okay, great. Yeah.
So yes. So okay. Well, in a few minutes, yeah. Let's
just lead up to when he needs, then we can take a break as we need to. But
yeah,
woo, buddy.
Yeah, I'll give him. Yeah, we'll give him. We'll take a break. We'll come back. We'll talk about it again. We'll take another break, and that should give him some time.
Jason Scheer coming up here in a few minutes. More Colorado reportedly moving to the Big 12. This is 365 Sports.
The future's bright. The time is now.
College is what you make it. It's a late-night pizza run and all-nighters coding a new project. It's having big dreams and making them a reality. It's a professor who knows your name and your story. It's preparation for your future, your calling, your life. And at Baylor, it's even more. Baylor, where lights shine bright.
Don Humidor, your home with a 48-foot walk-in humidor with the elite cigar brands from around the world, including the #1 cigar of the year, Aging Room Cuatro Nicaragua. Plus, they have the great brands like Macanudo and Artur Fuente, Rocky Patel, Aston, and so much more. CBD, great for sore muscles, aches and pains, sleep, Vita Dreams, and anxiety, mild depression, general health and wellness. Their staff very knowledgeable on the subject. If anyone is curious about CBD, ask Carol and Ashley. Don Humidor in the Townwest Shopping Center off Valley Mills in Waco.
At Ideal MRI, we feel blessed to be part of the Waco community. We're a small family business here in Central Texas. At times like this, the cost of healthcare has never been more important. And unfortunately, significant illnesses and injuries still occur. And that's why Ideal MRI is open and here to serve you through this difficult time. So if you need an MRI, ask your doctor about Ideal MRI. You can schedule online in minutes at idealmri.com or call 833-IDEAL-MRI.
Petty Clinic Men's Healthcare in Woodway is now proud to offer you men an exceptional weight management body sculpting product called semaglutide, also known as Ozempic or Wegovy. Semaglutide is an FDA-approved weight management medication. Once-a-week injections of this powerful medication offers an average body fat weight loss of 20% within the first year of treatment. In addition to body sculpting, semaglutide also normalizes blood sugars and has the clinical research proof of reducing blood pressure, cholesterol, stroke, and heart attack risk. If you're like most men and you have stubborn fat that will just not respond to typical diets and exercise, then help is finally here. Semaglutide, affordable, highly effective. Google search Petty Clinic Waco and reach out to the Petty Clinic team today for a free consultation with Dr. Petty to see if semaglutide is right for you. Go to pettycliniclowt.com.
After my first car accident, I feared the biggest damage would be to my wallet. I expected a mountain of bills and a long, drawn-out process. But my Texas Farm Bureau insurance agent was there when I needed her and helped me get back on my feet and in my car in no time. Instead of a hassle, I got reassurance and a quick recovery.
Stop by and see our agents at one of our 3 McLennan County locations.
Coverage and discounts are subject to qualifications and policy terms and may vary by situation.
There are 26 letters in the alphabet, over 600,000 words in the dictionary, and just 3 of them said together can change everything. Let's order pizza. Those 3 words lead to dough made from scratch and 3 fresh signature cheeses that blanket golden crust in a heavenly melt on Marco's Pizza that'll blow your mind. So visit Marcos.com to order and stop by Marco's Pizza in Belmead, China Spring, Woodway, and in Robinson. Marco's. Pizza lovers get it.
This is 365 Sports, powered by Sikkim365.com.
The 4 o'clock hour is sponsored by Boozer's Jewelers, the wedding ring store, specializing in custom jewelry and repair, all in-house.
Now here's Paul Catalina and Craig Smoak.
Okay, so Colorado reportedly, we'll call it investigating the move to the Big 12 right now and having discussions. In discussions. We have Jason Scheer coming up in the next segment at 4:35. Then at 5 o'clock, we have Tim Brando, who just tweeted this in quote tweeting Pete Thamel's tweet. Or is it a Zeet now? I don't know.
No, I'm still calling it Twitter.
Twitter
I'm still
life.
calling it tweet.
Yeah. So Tim says this with the emoji pointing down. Someone else can take the time to track it, but I'm reasonably certain I tweeted this would happen a long time ago, this would happen long ago. I've been saying recently that by the end of July, another seismic shift in realignment could happen. Rest assured, if Pete's report is accurate, it won't stop there.
Yeah, it can't, because if it's true, which we have no reason to believe it's not, and there's also now, the Big 12 is not going to be, what would that be, a 13-team league, right? When OU and Texas leave, if they added Colorado. So, I don't think they're going to be a 13-team league, so that automatically means that there's another school involved. Is that UConn? Now that you've got Colorado in the bag, I guess so, potentially. Is it another school like the kind of teased other Pac-12 that's not a four-corner that Jason put out there? I don't know there, but yeah, you would think that there would be another team that's in the mix, one of those two scenarios most likely, which would be crazy. And then the Pac-12 would obviously have to do something in response, and then these conferences that they're taking from would have to do something, and this is what happened the last couple of times. So yeah, this would change some things up, and I'm thankful, man. I was saying during the break, I'm almost relieved, because this is something we've been talking about for so long, and it did feel like, we brought up Jason's tweets at the very beginning of the show and talked about how it just feels like there's something different this week, and he was talking about Colorado, and then an hour and a half later, after saying, can we just have some finality one way or the other this week, please, for the love of God, and if something doesn't happen, can we move on for at least a little while? Well, it's like a prayer answered, honestly. If you've been talking about this for so long, it's like, oh my gosh, we actually have something that's not just strictly a rumor that you can't really track down or chart entirely. You know what I mean? It's like something you can actually kind of see and feel, and it's just a crazy good feeling to see that there's actually some movement one way or the other, so that we can maybe approach some finality. But like you said, there's not going to really be finality. There'll be finality in terms of maybe a Big 12 side of this, or finality in terms of a Colorado and Pac-12 partnership. But yeah, there would be other dominoes you think would fall, but that's for another time, another date, I feel like, and Tim can get into that a little bit later on. But just on the surface itself, Colorado moving potentially, or in discussions to move, and coming from Pete Thamel, I know there's been a lot of other people that are throwing out similar things for months and months now, but coming from him at this point, he's as dialed in as anybody, especially with the Big 12, and that means that we are on to something pretty major potentially as soon as tomorrow. And I'm sure we'll know more as the night goes on as well. But yeah, man, that's huge if that comes to fruition. And again, why would he tweet it if it's not likely to? Because what's the Pac-12 going to do? Suddenly go, no, here's the TV deal. Yeah. Look, man, last week I just didn't. It's just that we've heard this for so long that it's like, all right, dude, until somebody's going to do something, it's like we're just spinning wheels almost, it feels like. But there were like Jason Scheer who thought, and Colorado sounds weird, or whatever, and there clearly was something to that, and you see that today.
And President AD kind of darted on media days last week.
Yeah, which I didn't like. I don't know what that was. I didn't know how that was referring to it. Because that seems like something is like they were in a hurry. Like, were they catching a plane? Were they?
Well, they're not catching a plane. They have their own.
Well, right. Yeah, I know. But you can't just hop in there whenever you want to, I don't think. I don't know. I'm not a private plane person. Maybe you can.
That's the point of having one.
You can just whenever you want to?
You just tell, hey, we need to leave in the next so-and-so.
Okay, well, they had to leave is all I'm saying. Is but I know what you mean. Like, yeah, there's really was no reason for them rush, but I just thought about it that way of like, yeah, okay, but maybe they were just in a hurry to get to a meeting or something. Yeah. But clearly that was a little bit more to it than what I thought was up at the moment. So yeah, that's something that was a good eye from those who caught on to that and threw that out there.
So Chris sent a super chat of $5.
Thanks, Chris.
Asking a question about West Virginia a few minutes ago, and I was going to save that for this segment and tie it in with a graphic that we have. Now that's out the window. So Chris, I'm just going to thank you for, you can, but there's the graphic. Chris, thank you for your super chat. We can get to it another time. But breaking news is, as super, he sent another one for $2. Colorado to Kliavkoff, F this bleep, I'm out. But
well, Chris, we do appreciate that, and let's make sure that we put a bookmark on that, and we can get to that, maybe even later in the show or something. So we do appreciate that. But as far as your I guess, more prevalent tweet at the moment or message at the moment in regards to CU's message to Kleofkoff. Yeah, basically, sounds like they were finally at a point where they just were tired of the kicking the can down the road game, and that's something that's been talked about quite a bit is how long can these teams last? And, I think for some of them, like an Oregon State, for Washington State, for Washington, for an Oregon, for so-and-so, I think for most of them, it's like we can wait as long as we need to wait to the point of, they probably take less money just to stay where they are. But clearly Colorado is a little bit of a different mindset, and I don't know what you attribute that to because they did try so hard to establish themselves as a PAC school, and we've heard from various people about, geographically and academically and all of these things, and we've poked fun at some of those from time to time, but it makes sense. But, there is this piece, too, of where's the sports money coming from, and what does this tell you about the potential Pac-12 deal, if anything?
Yeah.
I mean, that's the part that's got to be alarming if you're a Pac-12 fan and you're hearing this news is like, okay, screw – and we, that was one thing I think Jason pointed out as well was the change in demeanor and that people have been very outspoken, like anti anything Big 12 or like we're starting to kind of like, like if there's something that were to happen, like that. And that was a good call and a good pickup because it does seem like the tone started to change. And I guess that stems from last week in particular in Colorado's actions. But yeah, this is a move that they clearly are looking out for their own best interests, which is what most institutions do. And it seems like they feel like the Big 12 is a better plan than the Pac-12. And if I'm a Pac-12 school, what exactly is that telling me now at this moment about where we are and where this TV deal is headed and all those types of things? So, yeah, there's a lot to unpack, but wow, that's huge news. Huge news.
All right, so Brett McMurphy says this. We've had Brett on a bunch of times. Colorado has scheduled a Board of Regents meeting for a second consecutive day for Thursday, where the Buffs are expected to discuss and approve a move to the Big 12, sources told Action Network HQ. It's 98%, according to the source. Colorado is yet to apply for Big 12 membership, source says, but that's what will happen tomorrow after the Board of Regents meeting, should the 98% thing follow through and that be the case. So Colorado coming back to the Big 12 where they were. And this is, and Craig, it's strange. You spend so much time during the day when you're trying to set up a show mad because you couldn't get a guest in the 4:00 hour, and then this happens. So,
it's a gift from the radio media gods for sure.
Yeah. Jason Scheer coming up next. We'll take a break here in a second, but 20 Norwegian krones, which I think is almost $20. Maybe not. I don't know what it is. Conversion-wise, but 20 Norwegian krones from Bulldog Mayonnaise. Howdy doody.
Howdy. Howdy.
Yeah. So it is on now.
Appreciate you.
The chat is it's gotten so I've lost it. I've lost control.
Hey,
I've lost control.
Man, all the people in the chat been riding for months, or even if you're just brand new to it, we've been talking about this for 2 years. I mean, for the most part, right? And there's been a lot of ups and downs as far as the story itself goes. And I don't know if it was Jason or if it was just somebody else on the timeline, like Sam Bradshaw. So I don't know. Somebody was pointing out just kind of how this is all going to, you're going to see the Pac kind of turn on Colorado now all of a sudden, and it's how some of that was starting to pop up. And, Mandel's article, when people were reading into that, the negative tone of it compared to, and Wilner's article compared to, what he had maybe been saying previously. I mean, there's some sleuths out there, and a lot of them are in our chat room, and do appreciate all of you. And, yeah, this is what we've all been waiting for, is some actual God's honest, movement of some sort, one way or the other, whether that's staying pat and making it be known that you are staying pat officially, or whether that's finally just jumping off the diving board and into the deep end of the Big 12. Either way, let's figure out what the end here is so we can, shift our attention eventually. And now at least part of that seems like it's coming to fruition, which is awesome. And for a lot of people in the chat room been following it very closely. I know it's like a birthday for probably a lot of people out there, because this is your bread and butter, baby. And there's actually some major happenings going on.
Yep. By the way, Matt Rogers says this to you, Craig. Craig, how happy are you to pick a new overarching topic to talk about soon?
I mean, Yeah, here's the thing: is I don't mind talking about realignment. It's just that because clearly we've been doing it for a while. But as far as that specific storyline and the specific storylines that have been kind of circulating for a while now, yes, it was getting stale. Like the whole watch every single movement, watch every single shift. Now, obviously, there was reason to do so. There's obviously, a meeting that was pointed out this time actually meant something as opposed to maybe some that were pointed out before, or this exchange at Pac-12 Media Days actually meant something versus the quotes in the Athletic article, for example. So there's just been so much back and forth. There's been a lot of name calling. There's been a lot of broad paintbrushing of an entire conference's fan base as just white trash, MAGA-loving losers, and those people are going to laugh their butts off, and already are, I would imagine, all across Big 12 country, because it just got nasty at a certain point, and I just think that's like, what are we doing here? We're having fun. We're going to disagree on some things, but there's some parts of it that just go way too far and get a little too serious where it's not even that fun anymore. And then more so than that, it's, the mystery kind of dies out the longer it drags on, at least in this case, and with football season around the corner. So to have that mystery potentially solved, and then to allow us to shift to, okay, now what happens after that? What does Colorado being in the Big 12 actually look like? Who do they come with? And actually have those be real things to talk about. Yeah, I think it's about time for a new chapter, and this is a hell of a way to kick one off.
We're going to just go ahead and go to Jason right now.
Yeah,
no reason to spin our wheels for any longer. Yeah. I just think this is, and I wonder, and we're excited and energetic about this, but please make no mistake, nobody is like doing an end zone dance on the Pac-12.
I'm not.
Yeah, exactly.
No.
We're not. Absolutely. I'm very curious to see what happens. A guy who's been on this for what feels like it's not like chronologically, it's not really all that long, but it feels like a long time from the beginning. Jason Scheer, 24/7 Sports, covers Arizona. Jason, Colorado, likely moving to the Big 12. This information doesn't get out if it's not, probably going to happen because you can't put the genie back in the bottle. Just what are your thoughts on this happening today, and why did it happen today?
Yeah, from what I understand, it's like 99% done. I don't actually know if Colorado has applied officially to the conference, but the steps we're seeing is basically they're going to go to the board, ask permission, agree to the move, vote on it, and then the application is pretty much, it's accepted without being accepted yet. But, from what I understand, the big thing was, if you remember last week, the Colorado president said that last Thursday they were going to get numbers presented by George. And they had the meeting and there were absolutely no numbers presented. And it was at that point that Colorado kind of said, you know what, it's time to really make a move. And there's rumors, I haven't been able to confirm, but there's rumors that the Big 12 said, look, we need someone by the end of the month here. You please let us know by the end of July. And that's kind of where we are. The end of July is pretty much here. And there's still been no substantial numbers presented. And Colorado's made the decision to leave.
Jason, what's you've been all over this. You've taken a lot of hell. And look, like you said, there's still unfinished business here. But this is obviously a big piece that's shifting in a major way compared to just all of the talk and rumors and things of that nature over the last, year plus. What's it like on your end? Even though, again, there's still more to come, but just to see, I guess you put out there, and it was a very good tweet, "Kiss my ass," signed management.
Well, and it's not like I want to be sure here. It's not like I'm dancing on the grave of the Pac-12.
Right.
That's not what's going on. But the amount of tweets and mean things said, and you don't know what you're talking about to anyone in Big 12 land, any reporter, has been a lot to handle. And there's guys that have been saying, under no circumstance will a Pac-12 school move to the Big 12. And, now that it looks like it's going to happen, it's kind of like, give the Big 12 writers, myself, some other whatever, some credit here. It wasn't just stuff that we were making up. There was clearly smoke, and like you mentioned, there's a long way to go. Now there's other schools on the clock. Now the Pac-12 has to speed things up, in my opinion. If anything, it's probably going to get crazier now.
Do you feel this will, just following up on that will start a panic within the conference?
Yeah, 100%. Because I don't see George with that horrible line at Pac-12 Media Day where he said the longer we wait, the better deal we could get or whatever it is. You can't possibly make that argument now, because now the longer you wait, other schools are now saying to themselves, should we do what Colorado did? Colorado jumped. Why is that? Now we have to seriously consider jumping as well. And so if you're the Pac-12 commish, you got to come up with a deal. And I know they actually had an update today. I don't think there was anything substantial. And from what I was told, Colorado had not told the Pac-12 that they were leaving yet. But, there were some indications with Rick George and all that. But, yeah, I mean, if you're Arizona and you're looking at this right now, you got to be saying to yourself, when are we making a deadline now? If we don't have a deal, let's say within a month before the season starts, are we really going to drag this out, or are we going to go to the spot that's clearly open for us in the Big 12?
Jason, did it feel like they obviously had their message out last week. You mentioned Kliavkoff, and we were talking about Marchand and Alrand's podcast and how they were talking about what a weird strategy that was to reveal to your TV partners that you're getting a better deal the longer it goes on, which was interesting. But has this, I guess from Arizona's point of view, let's talk about them first. Has anything really shifted major from there? Did it feel like it sort of settled down and it was going to status quo, or does this now completely upend everything for everybody over the past month or so?
I know that there were people within Arizona that did not want to be the first. Basically, I was told from people within Arizona, let's see if Colorado moves. And now that Colorado moves, I think it becomes much easier for Arizona to move. And now you got to wonder, with the Pac-12, the strategy has always been get a media deal and then go for expansion from there. Well, now the Pac-12 only has 9 schools. So what deal are you getting now with a conference that, if you're ESPN or whatever, what are you signing on for? You're signing on for a conference that's on the verge of dying now. And the reality is, if Arizona moves, maybe they backfill. I don't know what happens to the Pac-12, but overall with Arizona, I think they make their decision relatively soon, and realignment, that's probably a month, but right. It's something that, it's going to move now. I don't think it's Colorado leaving and then everything all of a sudden becomes quiet again.
No, Jason, you did tweet out that there might be other schools other than Arizona considering the move outside of it. I know that you don't want to continue to wildly speculate, but do you think that people how does it work? Do they call up Colorado and go, "What did they told you?" Or do they start having meetings? What do you think happens here after this?
Yeah, I think Colorado. They see how much Colorado signed up for. They see what Colorado was told they're going to get by the Big 12. And then they go to the Big 12 and say, can we get some of that? And then they go to George, and if George doesn't have a clear update, well, what are you going to do? And I know I'll be very transparent. I don't know the school that is looking to leave with Arizona and maybe whatever, but I was told from a very good source that it is a school that is not being talked about within the Pac-12. My first inkling would be Oregon, and because I don't think Cal or Stanford will ever leave the Pac-12. I don't think there's enough money with Washington State and Oregon State. We've talked about Utah. We've talked about ASU. Oregon I would lean to, and I don't know if that's going to happen or whatever, but I believe that now what you'll hear about is more schools having conversations with the Big 12 and looking to kind of get out, or at least gauge some interest in some financial numbers and all that.
Man, if that was the case, I mean, do you imagine how bad that TV deal must be? To force an Oregon, or someone that just seems like it would be crazy. And obviously, we can unpack that at a later date. When did you get a sense of just things were awry at Pac-12 Media Days? Was it the quick exit by the Colorado folks? Was it just George's initial message? Just what was your kind of feel coming out of that last Friday?
Yeah, Rick George leaving pretty much after the opening address and not taking any questions. And he claims to have a meeting, and I'm sure he did. But I'm also sure that he scheduled that meeting on purpose so he would have a reason to get out. So, I mean, for him not to answer any questions, literally say no comment, that kind of makes your ears perk up. And then when I woke up this morning, I had a lot of texts saying, there was for what I understand, and obviously I wasn't there, at Big Ten Media Day, there was a lot of open conversation about Colorado leaving. Multiple coaches were saying that they were leaving. There were people, in the media saying what they heard. And so it was a matter of the board meeting, and then the board meeting ends, and right away you have another one posted that'll likely be for approval. I don't expect an official announcement tomorrow from the Big 12 or anything, but that's kind of where we're headed.
Jason, just historically, the move to the Pac-12 wasn't good for Colorado financially. They lost some dollars over the long haul in it. They weren't good, really, outside of once or twice, and that good was relative to they were,
Steven Montez had a good little run, but it wasn't like Pac-12 champions and national champ.
As far as them on the field, this is probably a pretty good move for them, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, they did not have success in the Pac-12. Like if I'm a Pac-12 administrator and I'm trying to get a message out there, I'm going to back channels and saying, look, we can replace Colorado. It wasn't like they were a dominant team in basketball or football. If we had San Diego State, you can make an argument we're making the product better. And the issue is that, it's Deion Sanders has been very vocal about wanting to go to the Big 12. He is a Texas guy. And they put a lot of trust into what he's saying. And for Colorado, I think the move makes a ton of sense. And really, we all say Deion's going to be gone in a few years, whatever, but Colorado football has not been as popular as it is now for years. I mean, it is a national, they're selling out games and minutes. It is a national product. And so if you can take advantage of that attractiveness to your football program that you haven't had in so long, you've got to go and do it. And the Big 12 is right there. And that would have been super beneficial to the Pac-12 getting that national attention. But now, it's going to be Colorado versus TCU in a future Big 12 matchup to open up the season.
Yeah, no, that's going to be a crazy game now. Even more so with this news potentially. Jason, and I know we'd love to solve every answer, but I don't know about you. I'm just thankful today to have like something substantial that's like, hey, there's some meat to this that we can all follow along now with whatever happens in that meeting tomorrow. But from a Pac-12 standpoint, I mean, with all their expansion talk and there's been SMU and San Diego State, just what in the world do you think, they're thinking in those offices right now? And did they screw up? How could they have done this any differently, I suppose?
I think they screwed up years ago when they didn't expand when they had the opportunity. But to me, the real screw up was letting the Big 12 go to market first. Once the Big 12 went to market first and signed their deal, everything the Pac-12 did from there on out was going to be compared to the Big 12. And so now you lost that. You lost time slots. That might be the most important thing that people aren't talking about. Forget the money. You lost the time slots that normally your conference would be on. So if you're an ESPN or whatever, why are you spending an absurd amount of money when there's other ways that you could possibly find to fill those time slots? And now you've created a situation where you've kind of forced yourself into, okay, well, now we may have to go streaming. Like, for all I know, the Pac-12 could sign with Apple tomorrow for more money than the Big 12. The issue is it would be 100% streaming. Apple wants it all. And so now you've kind of backed yourself in the corner where any leverage that you had is completely gone. The networks have the leverage. The Pac-12 has absolutely no leverage because it let the Big 12 go to market and beat it to the punch.
Yeah, Jason, this like when somebody writes the history of how this went down,
crazy.
It's going to be crazy. And I talked to he's a legend in the radio business, but his name's Jeff Traylor, and he kind of invented sports talk radio up in the Northeast and was the guy who hired Mike and the Mad Dog. We were at the Super Bowl, and he is on the USC board. And I asked him about realignment, and he said, look, this was something that we talked about like year over year for about 6 years. They were like, well, is the Pac-12 going anywhere? So from the minute that USC left and the fact that the Pac-12 didn't do anything to assuage their fears at all, really, it's just such a rocky and crazy timeline.
I mean, it's crazy when you think about it. The Pac-12 had USC in a room voting against expansion and then days later leaving the conference. So they gave USC a vote on the future of the conference that it had already decided to leave. I mean, it's just crazy to think about. And USC did warn the conference. It may not have been direct, but everyone was well aware that USC wanted unequal revenue sharing because, it was bringing in a large chunk of money. And its argument was, why are we making the same amount of money as an Oregon State or a Cal when clearly we're better we're better athletically, we're a better product and all that. And the Pac-12 just kind of shoot it. and it really put itself in that situation. I have never blamed USC and UCLA for leaving, because at the end of the day, if you're a university, you have to do what's best for your university.
How much is Larry Scott to blame for all of this?
It's a big part. I mean, he let it get to the point. He put the conference in the bad spot financially. But at the end of the day, George is starting to get more blame too. Like, he's the one that handled the television deal and all that. So Larry Scott was not good in any way, and he put the conference in a bad position. The problem is that the new commissioner hasn't been able to put it in any type of better position than it was previously.
Jason Scheer, 24/7 Sports.
Hey man, go check those mentions and have some fun. And man, great job on withstanding a lot of BS and going through a lot of BS and all that. I mean, obviously there's still some chips to fall here, so it's not like there's, like you said, there's not a victory in the Pac-12 being hurt by this. But no, you've been out there and put your neck out there, so great job and just doing what you do, man. I
appreciate it, guys. Thanks a lot. Always fun to be on with you.
Jason Scheer, 24/7 Sports, with us here, has done a great job of this and withstood, and look, if you don't care about the Twitter trolls, it's easy to do it, but like, it withstood a lot of people, calling his credibility out, and here, there it is. Colorado appears on their way out of the Pac-12, and we'll find out for sure probably here in the next couple of days, because this is gonna have to move fast.
Well, yeah, I'm trying to keep track of all the different reports. So, did we mention Brett McMurphy's as far as the
98%?
Okay, yeah, the 98% figure. But that did also make mention that there would be the Board of Regents meeting tomorrow. They had one today as well. So it's 2 days in a row, and you would think that one tomorrow would be one that sheds a lot more light on what's officially going to happen. But yeah, 98% per McMurphy, and various like everybody who's been like Pete Thamel, Brett McMurphy. Max Olson, he just retweeted his article from just a little while ago about Colorado and their interest in the Big 12 and vice versa. There's been a lot of people who have been talking about this for the last couple years. There was the movement beyond Oklahoma and Texas, which really that following year was mostly about the Big 12 and who that they were going to pursue. Or I don't know if it was quite that year, but a lot of the talk was about the Big 12 and who they were going to pursue. And we know where that landed with the 4 schools that they brought in. But yeah, the moment those LA schools did what they did, that opened up a whole new can of worms. And I have to say, I don't want to go from months and months and months and months and months and months and months, but of speculation to now having something concrete and then moving back to speculation, but that is talk radio in so many ways, and it is fun too. I think that's part of why it's such a fiery topic, but very curious to know who this mystery team is in the Pac-12. And I don't want to get all in on Oregon, because then all of a sudden, next thing you know, it's like 365 says Oregon's coming to the Big 12, which no, we're not saying that.
That would be a wild-ass guess. Yeah.
Right. But if it's either Oregon or Washington, whoo, buddy, that would be something. That would be something, and because that's the one thing that I have absolutely ruled out in my head was either of them having any desire. But I don't even think of that like woo, buddy, in terms of wow, I'd be so shocked. It's like, what kind of a state would your conference have to be in that you'd basically be forcing Oregon or Washington, for example, to move to the Big 12?
Yeah, and I know that. Brett Yormark said that 14 was a good number, but I do think that 16 would be a better number, especially if the right teams were saying, hey, let's do this. So.
Sure. Yeah, and I don't know what any kind of interest level, and they could be talking about Oregon State or something. You know what I mean?
But even still,
be Stanford not. I mean, it won't be Stanford, but yeah.
Even still, and this changes the Pac-12's strategy so much going forward. We'll have Tim Brando next. Tim has been talking the tweet I read. He said that with us at least 2 or 3 times.
Yeah.
Of where he feels it is, and this is a guy in Tim Brando who is been everywhere in college football, and through the contract with Fox, which obviously expires this year for the Pac-12, but he has been to all those Pac-12 stadiums, and he talks to all those Pac-12 administrators, and he sees where things are going. He knows, and he's as plugged in as anybody.
I think there's just so many opinions that are on that type of a platform that it's hard to know. Yeah. Like we were talking about earlier, it's hard to know who's somebody that you have no idea who this person is, but it's red rifle 28 could be like the most in-the-know person in the world when it comes to like Oregon athletics. You don't know. Or they could be entirely full of it and just making up stuff because they've found that there's an audience for it. And to balance that is what it's hard to kind of sort through what's what a lot of the times. But clearly, while there was a lot of the speculation involving the possible move of Colorado, no chance, absolutely zero way, delusional, 12 and all, all these different things, like you never know. And that's why to be so matter of fact, unless you were somebody that was right there in the meeting and talking to George, not even talking to George because he doesn't even know, to Rick George, then I don't know, how to get
look, and this is one of the things that I kind of speculated on before was where do you get to the point of, and you and I talked about this a lot, where do you get to the point of, look, I'm sure you're going to get a deal, but we really just need to move forward. And then I think that's where Colorado is. It's like, our first choice was to stay here.
Yes.
But like right now, we have to be reasonable about, like, okay, maybe we're going to sacrifice some money because Apple's going to come in and give you this much, but we can't keep waiting. We need to plan for our future. And the other thing is, I don't discredit Deion Sanders' influence in this at all, because if you've got that big of a guy saying, look, I just need to know where I need to go recruit.
Yeah.
Would you please tell me? And they keep telling him, next month, Deion, next month, Deion, next month, Deion. No, you're going to want to say, like, all right. And then he's also telling you, like, I'm Deion Sanders. I'm a Dallas Cowboys legend. I've lived in Texas for a long time. Let me get loose.
Yeah.
In that spot.
Let me do my thing. Yeah. Let me go to Dallas, Fort Worth, and tell them, hey, we're going to be playing in Lubbock, and we'll play in Fort Worth, and we'll have those teams come here, and your family will be able to see you. And I can only imagine if, and I don't know how much this type of a story infiltrated into like teenage recruits and their families, but yeah, I would think that if it did in any way, that they're asking, okay, well, if I sign up and Corey comes to Colorado, one, are you going to be there for all 4 years, which is, a situation has to handle, but who's he playing? Where is he playing? Who is he playing? Like, what road trips are there? And so, yeah, I do think there is a dam about to burst scenario. Like we were talking about at the beginning of, like, something has got to give. And there's been multiple moments where it's felt that way, but now with the season upon us, media days in the rear view, it's like, all right, there's nothing else to, like, there's no vacation coming up that the presidents can't meet, like Christmas and New Year's and all the other delays they had, over the last year. There's really nothing interrupting some finality here other than just this deal continuously being negotiated. And yeah, I would think for a lot of the people directly involved, whereas you could say, well, we can wait as long as we want to wait. I mean, sure, Stanford will wait as long as they possibly have to. I'm sure Oregon State will wait as long as they possibly have to. But if you're a brand that feels like you've got enough sway or enough attention elsewhere that you just get tired of waiting, then, I can't fault you because it's been an awfully long one. And I can see where, yeah, you'd be a little bit sick and tired at this point of the unknown and what your future looks like.
Yeah. And, they might wind up, passing on more money, but holy cow.
Yeah, 98% is not 100%. That's the only thing that is the only thing that prevents me from just being like totally Ric Flair right now. But in terms of the woos, but yeah, that's about as close as it's going to get, and it's certainly a lot more than we've seen here recently. And not dancing on the Pac-12's grave. Let others do that. Don't know, what's in store for them. This story's got to come to 100% completion rather than 98 to know about the next steps. But yeah, it will create a chain reaction. That's to be sure, and perhaps the fun's just getting started.
Yep, absolutely. Next up, the one and only Tim Brando. This is 365 Sports.
With so many companies and policies out there, it gets so confusing shopping for insurance, and I never know if I'm getting the policy that's right for me. Luckily, I met the team at the Niche Group Insurance Agency. With the Niche Group, you can go to one company and get access to coverage options from many insurance carriers, and you get to speak to a real person about your specific coverage needs. With the Niche Group, I know I'm getting the right coverage at the right price. If you need insurance, talk to the experts at the Niche Group at 1-800-258-8302.
Automatic Chef Canteen is a full-service micro-market vending and office coffee provider with state-of-the-art vending equipment, a wide variety of products, and offering custom-fitted micro-market vending office coffee solutions for your employee break room. You want a full break room solution and a workplace oasis? Well, Automatic Chef Canteen, locally owned and operated for over 50 years in Central Texas, also includes in-house mechanics on call 24/7 for fast, reliable service and maintenance. Automatic Chef Canteen, 6900 Imperial Drive in Waco, or online at automaticchefcanteen.com.
TFNB Your Bank for Life is the official local bank of Baylor Athletics. Find out why more Central Texas are making TFNB their bank for life. Sign up for our Edge checking and savings accounts to earn interest or cash back. With 5 convenient locations and an award-winning mobile app, banking has never been easier. TFNB, your bank for life. Member FDIC.
Three Nations Brewing Company has 16 different beers on draft with a new beer every Friday. It also offers 2 air-conditioned tap rooms, a large indoor beer hall, a second-floor mezzanine offering a great overview of the brewing company and equipment and patio where you can relax under the shade. Plus, you can now experience the new Three Nations Beer Garden Grill on our shaded patio. Grab a cold beer and enjoy a bite from our freshly prepared and delicious menu. Street tacos, quesadillas, freshly cooked burgers and dogs, and veggie burgers too. Nachos and so much more, all prepared and cooked on site. So come visit the award-winning Three Nations Brewing Company on East Vandergrift off I-35 in Carrollton. Boozers is the wedding ring store and more. If you're ready to get engaged or already married and want to upgrade your wife's ring for a special anniversary, Boozers is the place to go. With the largest selection of premier quality diamond engagement rings and wedding rings in Central Texas. They have 7 cases with over 300 styles of rings from top designers like Natalie Kay. Choose from yellow, white, or rose gold, plus beautiful top quality loose diamonds. With an in-house jeweler, they can also custom make anything you want. Bring in a picture or drawing and let Boozers create your one-of-a-kind pendant or ring. They can even use some of your old gold and diamond jewelry to create something new. At Boozers, you'll find a great selection of quality timepieces, and Boozers is the place for expert watch maintenance and repairs too. They specialize in expert Rolex watch repair for fine jewelry, watches, custom work, and more. Go to Boozers on Valley Mills and Lake Air Drive in Waco.
Boozers, the wedding ring store and more.
This is 365 Sports, powered by Sikkim365.com. Enjoying the show? Hit the like button and subscribe.
All right, back here on 365 Sports, awaiting Tim Brando's call back.
I'm searching to see if he's on somewhere else. Like is he caught up already? But no, it doesn't appear to be. I did though catch a clip of him from December talking about Colorado and Deion Sanders and making the move. So yeah, Tim Brando will have plenty to say always, but I think especially on a day like today where there appears to be some significant shifting going on in the world of college athletics.
Yeah, absolutely. So, Garrett, do you want to swap this out? Okay. Yeah. All right. If you do, then we'll go to Plan B. But we're going to have to maybe play another break so we can swap out those things. So hope to not slow things up. Okay. So on.
All right, Paul can handle that. So if you're just joining us,
ahead,
Colorado appears like it may be making a move to the Big 12. It is a long time coming, a lot of discussion, and Paul, watch that camera, buddy. There's a lot of discussion about these last few months about what was going to end up happening with the Pac-12 and their TV deal. They had their media days last week and did not walk away from that feeling like anything was concrete, and if anything, just spawned more questions. I suppose if you're one of those who's intent on being a Pac-12 member for life, then I guess you heard just enough, or you would have had to heard something pretty horrific to not still be on board. But in Colorado's case, it's been pretty clear from the rumor mill and all sorts of various reports over the last few months that they were one of those schools that was keeping an open ear, and if anything was investigating and looking into the possibilities, despite the fact that some out there threw out that there's absolutely zero talks whatsoever. It could never happen. No Pac-12 schools ever jumping. Colorado was always pretty open about, let's see the deal. We want to be in the Pac-12, but let's see the deal. Last week, you think with media days you're going to see a deal. You don't. They leave pretty quickly from the meetings, which was noted by reporters in attendance. And next thing you know, here a few days later, after seemingly some building of some smoke just through various reports and rumors, there's some fire to that smoke. And they are now at what Brett McMurphy would consider a 98% chance to leave the Pac-12 for the Big 12. And they had a board meeting today. We'll have another meeting tomorrow. And you would think that here in the next 48 hours that Colorado could be coming back to the Big 12.
And we are joined now by Tim Brando, Fox Sports, longtime friend of the show. And Tim, I'm just racking my brain about what we're going to talk about during this interview with you, because it's not like some gigantic news has just dropped. And this is something you've been talking about for a while. You've talked about it with us. But Colorado appears to be on their way back to the Big 12. How do you think this changed from we're committed to the Pac-12 to now going back to their original home so quickly?
Deion Sanders. I think I said on your show shortly after Deion was hired in Colorado that you can look for Colorado to come back into the Big 12. I think that was the intent of the university from the moment they made the commitment to Deion to be their head coach. I don't think there's any question that Deion wants to play and recruit in the Big 12 region of the country. I think that he believes that Colorado is a much better fit in the Big 12 than it would be in the Pac-12. He's right about that, by the way. Times have changed. I think when I first mentioned it to you guys, and I understood it because of the history, you were not particularly happy to hear it because when Colorado left, it was not on the best of circumstances with the Big 12. And I do remember that, and I understood it. But I think that the administrations of schools have changed. Colorado still, as a state, is still a liberal state. The university, however, had really become way over the top liberal during the time when Gary Barnett and Dan Hawkins was trying to take over for him, and issues happened in the aftermath of Barnett leaving. Their administration's trying to turn it around, and they're trying to get college football to become what it was when, they look back on those days in the Big 12 as great days. The old rivalries that they had and big games that they had and the greatness of their program was during that period. That's not lost on Deion. Deion's got a real handle on the history of the game, too. If you ever sit with him, spend any time with him, you realize that. You don't see that necessarily, in media today because he's Prime. It's all about Prime and his teachings and what he's trying to do. So it's very rare that he gets you see him in any deep conversation about college football history. But trust me when I tell you, he knows it, and he also knows what it would mean to be able to recruit for the future of his program into the conference that is the Big 12 versus that of the Pac-12. And right now, there's just no denying that the Big 12 has been in the stronger position. So I really believe that was the first time I mentioned it to you guys. Mm-hmm. And since that time, more and more people have begun to gravitate to the notion. And even though there's a lot of speculation as to, and I think there probably are a few Deion haters out there that want him to lay an egg this year, I don't think it really matters what he does, honestly. In this particular season, it's his first year. So whatever they get, they get. And coming off the year that they had, if it's anywhere between 2 wins and 5 wins, I'm sure they'll be okay in Boulder with that. But I think for the future of the Big 12 conference, as much as Colorado wants to be in the Big 12, I think Brett Yormark really wants Colorado in a very strong way because what it means. To the economy, the strong end of eyeballs, more eyeballs in markets the size of Denver and beyond watching Big 12 football. I think you got to remember this. As great as the Big 12 looks right now, and it looks very good, given the fact that Oklahoma and Texas have exited, And no one is saying that any of these four schools replace adequately two of the biggest names in college football branding ever, Texas and OU. No one's saying that. But I think the momentum of the Big 12 has been rich and strong with the television rights deal that they were able to claim. But the thing you've got to remember about it, and I said this, just the last couple of years, you go to a college football campus in the Big 12 and you feel it. Okay, you feel the excitement in Waco. You feel it in Stillwater. You feel it literally in every location. At Kansas State, it's clear that college football is a really big deal. But what is it missing? It's missing market size. It's missing, short of the Dallas-Fort Worth metropolitan area, and now Houston, which I think the catalyst for them was clearly the market size. Getting Denver gives you a triumvirate of major cities that could really help boomerang eyeballs and get you better television ratings, and that has been what has cost. It's been the cost, really, the problem for the Big 12, even when they've been great and had really wonderful stories to tell. The ratings for their games have not been on measure anyway. As strong as even some of the Pac-12 teams. I mean, historically, Washington, Oregon, schools like that have gotten bigger television ratings than, and we're not even mentioning USC, obviously, or UCLA, but Pac-12 schools, if you measure their ratings in terms of viewership for games that are on national television, those schools are going to rank higher than the upper echelon of the Big 12. That'll change, I think, as time rolls on and people get accustomed to the new format, the 12-team expansion, all of that. But I just think Colorado is something that's of great value to the league, and I also think Colorado views the league very positively because of the fertile recruiting ground and just the comfort zone of recruiting in this area for Deion Sanders.
So, Tim, as you mentioned, you've been talking about it for, really Oklahoma, Texas got this ball rolling, and particularly as far as this part of the story, USC and UCLA. So it's been, a subject, all of this realignment expansion for quite a while. We've had many conversations about it. And I said at the top of the show, it just feels like, all right, there's got to be some type of a breaking point or a decision, especially with football season coming up and following media days in the rear view and all of that. For you, you've been confident that something was going to happen, but did last Friday and media days and what you heard from Kliavkoff solidify that, or how did you take what occurred last week?
Well, yeah, I thought, he definitely let you know that he was very actively involved in the pursuit, and that regardless of what was coming out of other corridors of the country, and really doing it, I thought, in a very professional manner, especially given the fact that some of his counterparts have I know said some things that he felt were not on the up and up, and alienated him in some respects. He's kept it classy, but at the same time, he's been very active and has been, without question, the most progressive of the commissioners in terms of not only what the here and now is, but also what the future needs to be. Trying to create new revenue streams by going to Mexico, telling television executives, hey, I like what you're doing with the USFL. We'd like to do something similar to that, create greater access to make our product look different than the other college football products. Those are all things that you don't hear the established commissioners of college football talk about. And again, a lot of that has to do with his background in NASCAR. What was NASCAR's greatness built on, really? It was built on television access, and how cool it was to hear the guys that were along pit road, talking to their drivers. People love that. And I think he sees college football in a similar light in terms of what can be done to make the viewing of Big 12 football a bigger deal. And by looking into maybe taking a game here or there with two of his teams to to Mexico. Some might scoff at that, but he's looking at it as another opportunity for creating a revenue stream. That's what he's trying to do. He doesn't just want to make the television money that he's guaranteed to make from ESPN and Fox. He wants to create more revenue streams so they can get closer, they being the Big 12, to that big check that the Big 10 and the SEC get. And to do that, you've got to be creative.
Tim, how does the Pac-12 salvage anything here?
That's a great question. Kliavkoff was very candid last week when he said that he believed that everyone in his stable was good with their grant of rights, and that they knew that they had 10 solid teams that were looking to move forward. I think if Colorado leaves, if this report by Pete Thamel is accurate, and I can't remember the last time when I saw a report from Pete Thamel that wasn't accurate, then I think it starts a chain of events that could be very similar to what we've seen in past years whenever, an announcement was made about this or that team. Now, look, we are very close to the start of the season, and the USC-UCLA thing happened on the 4th of July in 2022. Now, this is a little later. We're at the end of July and really less than a month away from week 0 and the first college football games to be played of the season. But listen, it's business as usual based on old television contracts for this year. So it is what it is. You can move forward. But for all of those Pac-12 teams, all of them that have been telling Kliavkoff this and telling Kliavkoff that, they have been waiting, and have been as patient as one can be. And if Colorado's gone, you can bet those presidents, their boards, the boards of regions or boards of supervisors, as the case may be at these schools, they have to have had a plan B in mind. And I don't think that if Colorado's gone, Utah cannot be far behind, and the 2 Arizona schools cannot be far behind. The question then becomes, and I heard today at the Big Ten Media Days, my friend Tony Petitti talking about the future. He was asked directly the question about how does the league, how do you see the league with 16 moving forward? Could it be more than that in the not too distant future? And he said, well, in talking with his constituents, they want to concentrate on UCLA and USC, which they're doing, but their schedule's already done for next season. The 24 college football schedule for the Big Ten is out. They have a plan in place, yes, but if suddenly the Big Ten looks at the situation in the Pac-12 and they see what's going to happen becoming a reality with Colorado, then I think there's going to be an 11th hour meeting in some smoke-filled rooms in and around Indianapolis and Lucas Oil Stadium, where they're having their media days, and into Chicago when they get back to their offices. Because I think that the hierarchy of some of the schools now, especially with travel for the non-revenue producing sports, they may be looking just from the standpoint of saving some of that enormous television rights money they're getting, saving some of that money that they would have to spend on travel for non-revenue producing sports to get USC and UCLA some company out west. I think it would be a matter of convenience more so than a matter of, hey, we're doing this in the best interest of growing the Big Ten. I don't think it necessarily means that much more financially to their television deal because they're already getting more than anybody else. But I do think that if the opportunity presented itself and they knew that with what's going on with Colorado, meaning the Big 12 is getting even larger, I think it triggers actions everywhere. I think the SEC will have to look at, what do we need to do? Should we become a little more aggressive and challenge the ACC with regard to their grant of rights with some of these schools that want in our league? And I think certainly Oregon and Washington would be prime targets for the Big Ten if they were to expand and start thinking about going for 20.
So, Tim, as you pointed out, you've kind of been on this for a while, and we've obviously, again, talked to you about it for quite a while, a couple of years now. But I'm just curious, when you saw the news come down, however you got it, Twitter or what have you, was it a whoa, like this is finally happening, or were you like, I knew it? What was kind of your reaction? Because we definitely had some whoas over here.
Yeah, no, I even tweeted out. I think I said somebody else can track Twitter to see exactly when I wrote it on Twitter, but I do know because I'm talking to you guys right now. I know that I was talking to you after the decision was made with the Big 12 and with USC and UCLA last year, and we knew what was happening with the conference growing with Brett Yormark. I told you at that time when Deion was hired, when that came through, I said, look out. Yep. And I said it on your show. I'm sure it was the first time I ever said it, too. Mm-hmm. And it was because of some conversations I had right before I was on your show with some people that I trust. Deion Sanders wanted to be in the Big 12. And people close to him knew that. And I think the school knew that. And without question, if the school knew it, then Brett Yormark's no doubt probably found out about it. So, no, I thought, I was not surprised at all. And I didn't want to, I put out a tweet. I'm not going to say I'm, Mr. Know-It-All. I'm not. And I'm not going to say I don't want to do that. But at the same time, you just have to follow not only your own feelings and your thoughts, but through the years, the people you talk to that you trust, you know why you can trust them. You just do. And this just makes all the sense in the world. Colorado geographically sits in a spot where historically, those great programs that they had with McCartney and that great staff of his, which included Les Miles, and Gary Barnett and so many others that were part of that staff that won a national championship in '90. That team was made up of a lot of kids from South Central LA. A lot of California kids were on that team. When the Pac-12, LA was you could get a lot of kids out of LA to come to Denver. And you could and a lot of other programs in the Pac-12 that were out, as they say, in the country, like a Utah, could get a lot of those kids. Well, that stops happening the moment you've got NIL, and it stops happening the moment USC and UCLA go to the Big Ten. Now they're playing on a much larger stage. So you're not going to be able to get those kids in Los Angeles to build your program as its foundation, as Colorado did. One of the great recruiting areas for them, people forget how close Denver is to Texas. Okay. It is geographically not that far, a quick flight into Texas, and that's where you got to go to get some of these players. You're not going to just deal with kids in and around Colorado. Colorado is a beautiful place, but they don't necessarily have the greatest high school football there. So you got to recruit nationally in a place like that, and that's what Deion's all about. And when you're in the Pac-12, and that league that's one of the reasons why I think Adcock was trying to counter with SMU. All this talk about SMU was the Pac-12 trying to get into where? Texas, and specifically the Dallas-Fort Worth metropolitan area. Can you imagine what Deion in a conference that's got much of its base being in the state of Texas, what he could do from a recruit standpoint in the Metroplex? I mean, my God. He can have a much better opportunity of getting all the things that he wants more quickly by being in the Big 12 than he ever could in the Pac-12.
Tim, if you are one of those other four corner schools, how quickly do you want to move on this?
I think as fast as I can. The Oregon is all caught up in college football. I mean, Eugene is just a tremendous college football town. It's the state of Oregon, in and of itself, is not as college football crazy as Eugene is, but Eugene really is. And they've got a large alumni base, and they want to be a major factor. They want to be and so does Phil Knight want them to be a major player in college football. Washington has gone through a lot. When Chris Peterson was coaching, I think that they were in a position, they were poised to be, a consistent top 10 team. Well, now he's left. Their administration's gone through some issues, and they've had a coaching carousel. They do have a great coach now. They really lucked in. Not the guy that replaced Chris, his old defensive coordinator, did not work out. This guy's really good. He's sharp. And if they're smart, and I think the people that are in power there they're really going to look at it and say, if we're going to bolt, now is the time for us to do it. And I just think that either one of them would be great gets for the Big Ten. I do think they academically want to line up with the Big Ten rather than the Big 12. And I think that those would be their options. But I do believe the Arizona schools and Utah would be happy to come into the Big 12. And it would make a lot more geographical sense for them to do just that.
Tim Brando, Fox Sports. Tim, when we originally scheduled this interview, we obviously had no idea this was going to happen. So when luck meets opportunity, this has just been great. So thank you as always for hopping on with us. We love having you on. I hope that you get into Waco this year so we can actually, have you in the building.
Well, I hope so too. I was. You guys have been asking me. I just found out, and I can tell you. You want some breaking news on my schedule?
Yeah, sure.
I can give it to you. Okay. I really thought, and we were talking about Oregon and Texas Tech there in the second week. I really thought that might be the game that Spencer and I got. But as I found out, that game is up against Texas and Alabama, so maybe there wouldn't be quite as much viewership for that game as originally thought. But week one. Actually, week 0, Spencer and I are going to work in the new stadium in San Diego. The Ohio U Bobcats are going to play Brady Hoke's San Diego State team on the 26th of August, and he and I are going to go out there. I think I might take my sticks to Torrey Pines. What do you think?
Yeah, I think that's a good idea. Yeah.
Might have to do that. And then the following week, instead of doing that game with Oregon and Texas Tech, we're going to do the game after that between Stanford and USC. So we'll have Caleb Williams, the reigning Heisman Trophy winner, and the Trojans. Get to see Lincoln Riley. It'll be the first Lincoln Riley coached USC game that I've had. So looking forward to that in week 2. Week 3, which I think, of all the games that I think I had indicated I wanted and was hopeful of getting in the Big 12, this one was the one I wanted the most. TCU at Houston in week 3. So that's a game that I really think is going to be a lot of fun. And I think TCU will handle Colorado to start, probably have a strong record going in. And Dana Holgerson and the people at Houston are giddy about getting back into the Big 12. But they got to step it up, and that'll be a very important game for them at home. So that's how we start. A week 0 game in San Diego, followed by Stanford USC, and then after that Stanford USC game, really I left out one week. The second week we've got Michigan State on a Friday on September the 1st. Michigan State's at home against Central Michigan. Spencer and I are going to do that game on Friday night, so we'll get a Big Ten game in week 2 on Friday the 1st, and then we go to SC for week 3. Actually be week 2 of the regular season, but our 3rd game of the year. And then in the week 3 season, our 4th game, that'll be TCU at Houston.
Tim Brando, Fox Sports. Tim, we'll talk to you again soon.
You got it, fellas. Always good to be with you.
Thank you, Tim. Tim Brando, one of our favorites here on the show, and a guy who's been around college football, and you heard he's got some great trips. The
last Stanford USC Pac-12 game.
Yeah.
I was gonna interject there, but wanted him to finish. But yeah, that'll be the last one of those. That's the first Houston Big 12 game. So he's gonna have a last and a first, pretty much, I guess, almost back to back there. Get to see Snapdragon. A lot of good things said about Aztecs' new stadium out there in San Diego, and it's a place I've always wanted to go. Not the stadium, but the city. So I'm sure he'll be thrilled there. And like you said, probably bring his clubs to Torrey Pines. So sounds like he's got a pretty busy slate and should have a lot of fun. Get to see Caleb Williams. So yeah, he'll be all over the place, and can't wait to hear him and Spencer's voices. Means that football's back, and obviously we've had a lot of realignment talks with him, his various segments with us over the last couple of years. That's been as much a part of the discussion as even the games themselves in some cases, especially given the time of year. But he was, I like I mentioned, I think I pulled up that clip from like December when he was talking about Dion in Colorado. So great to have him follow up on, something we've been talking about for quite a while. And man, just crazy that we started off talking about like, we got to Esther, get off the pot, baby. Like, football season's almost here. And then Colorado's like, I got to go. And then they just ran to the restroom, and here we are. So, yeah, it was probably a better way of comparing that, but that's kind of the way it unfolded. So, in so many ways, was talking about, like, hey, something needs to give. And then 30 minutes later, here's Colorado in the news for potentially moving to the Big 12 with a 98% chance. So, yeah, it's a wild day for sure.
Absolutely. We'll take a break right here. We'll come back. We'll get into some super chats that we've gotten over the Tim Brando interview and just kind of go through this and see where our feelings are. We are pivoting the top five to a Colorado-related top five. I was back in the Big 12 preview because we only have 3 more to do, or 4, I don't know. I can't remember where we are. I don't do numbers. But we're almost done there. But I had to do Colorado one today because I didn't want to, downshift to talk about Houston all of a sudden.
Yeah, I mean, this is minor. This isn't any breaking news, but there's a few reports or just like little follow-ups. Like, for example, Brandon Marcello, in wake of reports, Colorado scheduled a special regents meeting for tomorrow to discuss a move to the Big 12. The Pac-12 declined comment when contacted by 247 Sports. So, if you just want to, throw more fuel onto the fire, and I wouldn't expect them to have much to say, but if they did have something to say, that would have been far more notable. The no comment, though, is notable in and of itself. So there's little things like that are trickling out, and a couple other things we could follow up on for sure when we come back from a break.
All right, and I just want to tell you guys, tomorrow we've got over 1,000 people watching now. I hope that we can keep that going into tomorrow for our show. But 3:30 we have Max Olson. 4 o'clock we have Rhett Lashley, who we'll have to straight up ask, with all this going on, I mean, how aggressive do you have to be at SMU of trying to get into a conference or into the Pac-12 potentially? And then we'll have Stuart Mandel right after that. So
probably couldn't have done a better lineup for tomorrow, honestly. I mean, maybe 1 or 2 people you could add on to that, but that's hitting a lot of different angles with this story for sure.
Yeah, and then I will work tirelessly to get someone who actually is in Boulder covering them tomorrow. But considering that meeting is at what I believe would be 4 o'clock our time, it's going to be tough. Yeah. So please, look, while we have 1,000 of you here, please like and subscribe. We don't do that often.
We don't ask for that ever.
We don't ask for that ever. We really don't. It's just one of those things. We just hope that our work stands on its own and you organically like us. But I might as well ask while you're here. Plus, if you'd like to follow us on Twitter at 365SportsYT, if you are into that particular social media forum. We will come back and get into your super chats. This is 365 Sports.
In our logo and advertising, we say we are people that you can count on. What does that mean? It starts with providing a quality vehicle and quality service at a fair price. But it also means we do what we say we will do, and we treat people fairly with respect. It starts by hiring great people, good local folks who work hard with a caring attitude. Our employees are the real reason we are people that you can count on. Put us to the test and see for yourself that at Richard Carr Motors, we are people you can count on.
One size fits all. That may be all right for an adjustable belt or cheap sunglasses. When it comes to your financial needs, no one wants a one-size-fits-all strategy. Cam Heathcott, your Edward Jones financial advisor, knows that his most important goals are yours. That's why we take the time to understand your needs, knowing you. That's how Edward Jones makes sense of investing. Cam Heathcott in Conroe at 936-756-7717. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
You want to know why Stonewood Dental is so successful? Listen to what happy customers have to say.
It's pleasant. It's different than any other dentist office. I really feel like they care. And it's not that you're here for 2 hours waiting on someone to take care of you. It's quick and easy, and I bring my kids, and my kids love being here too. They really love the treasure box. Staff is really nice and accommodating, real friendly. You feel more like home. It's not sterile looking. Everybody has their own personalized rooms with decorations and decor, and they'll even have a blanket for you when it's cold. I've recommended people to actually come here, and they are patients now. I really love it here. It feels like family.
Learn more, stonewood-dental.com.
Established in 2007 and independently owned, Alliance Bank Central Texas is committed to helping families and businesses meet their financial goals. From their tellers to their board of directors, they know the importance of superior service and competitive products. Customers have confidence knowing that their financial needs are in good hands. It's your bank, Alliance Bank Central Texas, with 2 Waco locations, 4721 Bosque Boulevard and 191 Archway Drive on Highway 84, and at alliancebanktexas.com. Member FDIC and equal housing lender.
At Ideal MRI, we feel blessed to be a part of the Waco community. We're a small family business right here in Central Texas, and our goal is to bring down the cost of healthcare while maintaining high quality. At times like this, the cost of healthcare has never been more important, and unfortunately, significant illnesses and injuries still occur. That's why Ideal MRI is open and here to serve you through the difficult time. We offer premium MRIs just like a hospital with state-of-the-art technology and specialists, but you'll pay less. Sometimes thousands of dollars less, whether you're using insurance or not. At Ideal MRI, we accept most insurance and there are no hidden costs, even offering financing if that's needed. Everything included in the price, and you'll not get something as a surprise in the mail later on. If you need an MRI, ask your doctor about Ideal MRI. They'll know. You can schedule an appointment safely from home online in minutes at idealmri.com or give us a call, 833-IDEAL-MRI, idealmri.com.
Welcome back to 365 Sports, powered by Sikkim365.com. It's time for our weekly segment with John Machota of The Athletic, brought to you by Pioneer Steel and Pipe, where customer service is their main focus, and best in metal, steel, and pipe for large or small projects, with 2 locations in Waco and Bryan. Family owned and operated since 1943.
So I just texted my buddy John Machota and it said, hey, and the thing is, there's a lot of Cowboys news right now, which would be a really great Machota segment. He's going to move to Friday at 5, but we didn't have time to change all that out because I've had to do a new top 5, and there's a lot of things going on here.
Colorado ruined the show. But no, they actually boosted it in a great way.
Yeah. Production-wise, they made it a little bit more difficult, but those of you watching don't give a crap right now. So I was just saying that's why we had that weird opening. He's not going to be with us today, but we're going to move him on to Friday, which might be Colorado Day officially.
Yeah, let's get to Colorado here.
Yeah.
We'll talk to Machota when we talk to him. He'll be on, like you said, in a couple days.
Yeah, so, having a race through Twitter here, the Brian Howell just a minute ago, who I contacted about being on the show, and we'll work on it. The Colorado Board of Regents meeting set for tomorrow and scheduled today will be public. That could mean that a vote about a move to the Big 12 will take place. To this point, all of these BOR meetings about athletics over the past year have been executive sessions.
Yeah, I mean, there's been multiple times that those have been pointed out just as like hey, just check this out. Maybe there's something to it. Maybe there's not, kind of a deal. But specifically, I saw Max Olson post the agenda item details for tomorrow, July 27th, special board meeting, 3 p.m., Thursday. Call to order, action item, athletics operations, type action. So action, lights, camera, action for Dion and the Buffaloes. It would appear tomorrow we could have a full-blown final, decision made on this move to the Big 12. It looks like it's all but inevitable. I mean, I think the only thing bigger that could happen now, other than just like a cataclysmic, eruption of the Pac-12 as a whole, would be for them to backtrack and suddenly be like, no, that 2% chance that was out there, that was actually valid. But, I mean, yeah, for all intents and purposes, it appears as though Colorado is going to be rejoining the Big 12, and that would give the league 13 teams following this upcoming season, which would just lead you to speculate that there's got to be another move, and we've kind of talked about that a little bit, but that's something that obviously can carry conversation for a while after, and certainly there's the element now of how will the Pac-12 react, what will their response be, then what do they do, how do they pivot, how does that affect others in the dominoes fall, but just the Colorado story in and of itself is major news, and just the idea of them coming back to the Big 12 after leaving so many years ago, after all of this talk about how they better align with the Pac and all of that, it's pretty crazy and surprising. Not blindside surprising, because there's been so much discussion that there's always been kind of a little heat there. So it's not like it comes out of complete nowhere. It's not totally out of the blue. But to say unexpected and surprising, I think, is still very fair, no matter what the little hints and whatnot have been here in the last few days. There was obviously something to their behavior at Pac-12 Media Days, because now you see as a result of what their actions are. And man, I'm trying to take it all in, and I'm reading all sorts of different articles and opinions and everything, because I think everybody's just reacting and kind of just trying to wrap their heads around this. And it's a crazy deal.
Yeah, absolutely. It is wild. And I want to go back to one thing that Tim Brando said, in that, he said this is Deion Sanders really, accelerated this, and it doesn't. Go ahead.
Yeah, I just want to make mention from Dennis Dodd. Sorry. For now, Colorado is expected to be the only addition to the Big 12.
Yeah, I think they were the ones, and that makes sense, because I think they were the only ones who are down the line at this point. Now, they have thrown gasoline on the fire, and we'll see how everybody else scrambles to make sense of this. Mm-hmm. And maybe they are the only addition, but I don't think that
who's to say now, right?
Yeah,
who's the heck to say? There, obviously with Smoak, like I said, with Colorado, there's been smoke with some others as well, whether in the Pac-12 or, potentially a UConn, for example, was made mention of a few days ago, but, or throughout this process, really, they've been kind of in and out as a rumor. Gonzaga for a long time, although the heat's kind of died down with them. We haven't really heard Gonzaga mentioned in a while, quite frankly. I almost forgot about them. But, yeah, that's just what Dodd's reporting, is they're the only team for the time being. And, the rest of that can play out. It's kind of like I just said, I don't know what's to come, and there's a million different ways, different directions you can go with. All right, what happens next? And that's kind of what we do as humans, right, is like the big thing happens there. All right, what's next? But this in and of itself, what's it going to be like to hear Deion maybe at a press conference here pretty soon talking about a move to the Big 12?
Yeah.
And, how does that change just so many different things, the landscape, the future, for multiple conferences. It's a lot to unpack. Obviously, got to make it official, but it looks like tomorrow that could very well be the case.
Yeah, and I will go back to what Tim Brando said. I also want to highlight one of the things that Jason Scheer said. He said that he felt that Arizona in particular, when it came to this, did not want to be first. And it's kind of like when you're a kid taking a test and you're done. No matter how confident you feel, you're kind of hoping like somebody else go up there first.
Yeah, right.
Somebody else go up there first. I don't want to be first, because usually, especially if it's like a shorter one or like a pop quiz, you go up and put it down, and then you have to watch the teacher grade yours specifically, and you're like, oh man, I messed up. I should have done that. Should have waited a second. Just waited a second and checked it again. But sometimes there's valid. Like if you're done with your test, go turn it in. And Colorado, I think, was probably done with the test. Like they've gone through it, and they're like, look, we're ready to make the move now. And, Rick George not speaking at Pac-12 Media Days, when I can tell you, if you're wondering if that's a big deal or not, at every Big 12 Media Days I've ever been to, I've been able to walk up to the president of any school and at least have a conversation if you wanted to. Mm-hmm. Even if you're not talking about an interview, like you can walk up to them and be like, hey, introduce yourself. I talked to, and now granted, this is a different situation because they're coming into the conference. I spoke to Chris Pesman from Houston for 45 minutes. So it's not, they're there to talk to us. Like that's why they're there. So Rick George darting out was very, very telling in that, especially in hindsight, when you look at it, what's happened today, just less than a week later from Pac-12 Media Days. And then Tim Brando saying that Deion had influence over it. And most of the time the coach wouldn't. Like tomorrow we can ask.
I wouldn't think so, yeah.
Tomorrow we can ask Rhett Lashley about it, and like they'll certainly take his input and appreciate his input.
Sure.
But ultimately it's going to be made because Rhett Lashley won't be the coach, at SMU forever. Somebody else is going to be reaping the benefits of a conference move long after he goes and takes another job. I'm not saying. I'm just saying that.
Well, it's
things
like
change.
it's a 20-year decision.
Exactly.
The very minimum. It's not hey, let's do this for a couple years and then let's go back. Colorado's been in the Pac-12 for several years now. It's not like it's only been 3 or 4. It's been a little
over
while.
a decade.
So yeah, to your point, your current football coach, unless it's like a situation where it's Kirk Ferentz, and that like until he can't go any longer, he's going to be the head coach at Iowa. Deion could be gone next year, and I don't think anybody would bat an eye at that. So to have the coach who may not be there very long say or have any sort of influence and sway on a years-long decision that you're talking about, at least a decade, probably more than that, that's unusual. Yeah, or to have any type of influence that would be substantial, that could potentially move that needle one direction or the other. And we've heard that about Deion at various times. We know he's got pull and sway, but to think that he could be a catalyst for actual conference change, given the uncertainty of his tenure at Colorado, just seems kind of far-fetched. But if anybody was going to have that kind of pull, why would it not be Deion? And why would it not be the situation he's currently in, given the entire environment surrounding college athletics with realignment and all the different factors that are playing into what the future is going to look like? If you're Colorado and you're saying, hey, man, we're all in and we're going to solidify ourselves to the very best of our abilities, they did that partially by hiring him and making a big swing of the stick doing that. And now I think they're taking another big chop at the plate, and you're seeing them just say, hey, look, we got to look out for ourselves, and we think Deion's going to be here, and he's going to lead us into the Big 12 and maybe have a very bright future, but regardless, this is the best move for us, and that's Deion for you. Yeah, I don't know a lot of coaches would have been able to have that kind of input.
No, but again, I said it before, there's not maybe a bigger celebrity in sports they could have hired for this job.
True.
So he's the reason they hired him is to put eyeballs on Colorado football again.
He's done that.
And he's done that. And already without them he's not coached a game for them outside of their spring game. He isn't, walked on the field to coach against another team at all. Has not done that. But the other thing is, if they want a chance for Deion to stay, whatever long-term means in college football and in Deion Sanders' world, you kind of have to listen to him, right? You kind of have to, acquiesce to what he wants. And especially if it is a move that, look, I know that there's some things and numbers that we may not know about that might be different, with Colorado, but I don't think that on the field for Colorado football, which is what this move's about, that this is in any way bad, considering that their decade plus in the Pac-12 has been blah.
Bro, there's not even an argument to be made. They played in a Pac-12 championship game in 2016, and that's the only time I even reference really anything they've ever done in the Pac. I always bring up Steven Montez because he's from Texas, he's from El Paso, so I followed his career and knew that he went out there and played pretty well, and they got to a Pac-12 title game and got the doors blown off, and that was really the last little bit of relevance. I've followed them pretty close because Laviska Shenault and players like that came from Texas and went out there, but didn't really. He had success individually for the most part, but as a team, no, they've not had great success. They had Mel Tucker there, and then boom, he bolts for Michigan State, and they just sort of lost their way. When I think of Colorado, I think of the team in the early 90s that was Nebraska's foe and was right there in the mix and competing for national titles and had the all black with the gold helmets and Cordell Stewart and Michael Westbrook and Rashawn Salam. And that's what I think of when I think of Colorado because of my age. But that was 40 years ago or 30 years ago at this point. It's been a while. And they had moments beyond that. They played for a Big 12 title. They had wins here and there. But as far as their Pac-12, lives here over the last decade plus, there's basically not zero, but not a whole lot to write home about. And that wasn't the case when they were in the Big 12. That was not the case when they were in the Big 8. They were a national team that had big rivalries and played in big games, had big-time players, and it's been a really long time. So you add all the things up, and believe it or not, even though there's some people out there that thought otherwise, there are decisions that are made that are bigger than academics and research grants and things like that. And when you're, as our buddy Sam Bradshaw pointed out, losing money on a yearly basis, given the current Pac-12 setup, you see what the Big 12's doing, how progressive they're being. It's not a total shock, but it's still a little bit of a surprise that we reached this point. And really, you can't put the blame anywhere but at the feet of George Kliavkoff and the Pac-12 for not being able to right the ship or shore it up enough to prevent any potential exits.
Yep, absolutely. All right, so let's get to some super chats before we got to go to the top 5. Katie Rader, $10. 2 adult beverages on us, guys. Thanks for last year. Jeff Fuller,
You're awesome, Katie. Yeah. Appreciate you watching as much as you do.
Jeff Fuller, $19.99. Love to see the Big 12 getting stronger and more secure. And Lemansky, $10. Thank you, 365 Sports. Don't get whiplash in 2023. Yeah,
no kidding.
Yes,
no kidding. I mean it's been a long road. A lot of discussions, a lot of podcast segments, and back and forth, and interviews and guests with a lot of people talking about this very subject. So just the timing's lovely because we still can now kind of have something to chew on heading into the season and watch football and enjoy that part of it. But it is great to see something like actually occurring that's not just this could or should or would or may or not. It's like, no, it looks like tomorrow Colorado could actually be joining the Big 12, and there's an actual meeting about it. And to get to this point it's pretty satisfying, man. It feels pretty good to reach a point where there's actually some real meat on the story itself.
Yep. Kenneth Maynor, $4.99 super chat. Thank you, Kenneth. This Colorado Big 12 move probably means SMU stays in the AAC and probably Memphis and USF too. Big 12 could gain 4 Pac schools to get this to 16.
Well, that is the interesting part about this, or there's actually a lot of interesting things, but the repercussions of said move are what will now become quite interesting. And, some may point to, the Big Ten. Now, here's the thing. Let's go back to Oregon and Washington. We started off talking at the beginning of the show, right? We were talking about the Big Ten quotes and how they were basically saying we're staying pat. There's always been this underlying theory that if you're the Big Ten, one, you're in no hurry because you got your TV deal, you got 2 new LA schools, and we talked at the very beginning, like what's the rush to go and add Pac-12 teams when you haven't even onboarded your Los Angeles schools just yet? We talked about that at great length. There's really no need to, but there's always been this idea of rather than them being predatory, that they could just sit back, root for chaos, and then pick up the pieces after the fact, right? Mm-hmm. Well, if this move does cause the rest of the Pac-12 to go, wait a second, what's going on here? And next thing you know, you do have some more subtractions or additions that head off to the Big 12. Maybe they get the Ducks and the Huskies at a discount. Maybe the Ducks and the Huskies look elsewhere. I don't know. But rather than the Big Ten actually having to be predatory in this sense, they have been able to just sit back. And now as a result of that patience and calculating, they might be able to bear some of that fruit without having actually gone on the hunt and forced a move of Oregon and Washington. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. So, I don't know if that's how it ends up, but that's a brilliant strategy if that's how it works out for them. And yes, what happens from here on out is going to be fascinating because do the other schools now say, nope, statement of unity, we're waiting on the TV deal still, and nope, we're inviting SMU and San Diego State, or does it just change everything? I don't know, and that's what's going to be fascinating to see here over the next days and weeks.
Yeah, it is really going to be. Thank you guys for the super chats. When we come back, the top 5 pivoted and done about 15 minutes ago, 20 minutes ago on Colorado and why they're leaving. This is 365 Sports.
The future's bright. The time is now.
College is what you make it. It's a late night pizza run and all-nighters coding a new project. It's having big dreams and making them a reality. It's a professor who knows your name and your story. It's preparation for your future, your calling, your life. And at Baylor, it's even more. Baylor, where lights shine bright.
Where is the best beef in Texas? Your house. When you order from Texas Beef House, unleash the flavor of Texas-raised Wagyu. From our pasture to your plate, that's TexasBeefHouse.com. Everyone, when they think of Wagyu, the first thing they think about is beef, and that's obviously what you guys specialize in, and you raise it right there from your pasture to the customer. The fillets, you have ribeyes, you have New York strips. I've tried them all. These are always available, correct, by ordering online?
Yes, everything's available, TexasBeefHouse.com. You can order one package of steaks up to as many packages as you want. All the steaks come 2 steaks per package. We've got New York strip fillets. The fillets are so tender you can almost cut them with a fork. Ribeyes. We've got top sirloin, and we've got regular sirloin, and even flat iron, flank steak, and flap steak. They're all great.
Oh, that sounds great. Fajita meat?
Yes, we've got skirt steak and flank steak that we use for fajita meat.
Samantha Duvall's the marketing director with Aaron Duvall, of course, in the Duvall family. What they've done, family-owned, operated, and they run TexasBeefHouse.com. Unleash the flavor of Texas-raised Wagyu, not just steaks, but also so much more. From our pasture to your plate, TexasBeefHouse.com.
Let Camille Johnson Realtors guide you seamlessly through the process of buying your dream home or selling your current one. Commercial, farm and ranch, or residential, Camille Johnson Realtors can smoothly and successfully lead you through any transaction. With a team of 28 experienced agents who are excited about serving you, Camille Johnson Realtors services the entire greater Waco area. If you're in the market to buy or sell, contact Camille Johnson Realtors, 104 Midway Center in Woodway, or find them online at www.camillejohnson.com. Camille Johnson Realtors, elegant, charming, warm. Welcome home.
Stepping into a new pair of boots is great, but stepping into the boots of a U.S. Army officer can also add confidence and leadership skills to your son or daughter's career path. There are more than 150 occupational specialties to help them find the best fit for their future. See all the things your son or daughter can achieve in our boots at GoArmy.com. U.S. Army Waco Recruiting Company, 254-598-8131 or 254-776-1543.
There are 26 letters in the alphabet, over 600,000 words in the dictionary, and just 3 of them said together can change everything. Let's order pizza. Those 3 words lead to dough made from scratch and 3 fresh signature cheeses that blanket golden crust in a heavenly melt on Marco's Pizza that'll blow your mind. So visit Marcos.com to order and stop by Marco's Pizza in Belmead, China Spring, Woodway, and in Robinson. Marco's. Pizza lovers get it.
Did you know that 1 out of every 4 men have symptomatic low levels of testosterone and don't even know it? And if you think you're too young to worry about it, guess again. Low T levels can make you feel tired and grumpy, raise your cholesterol, and cause weight gain. Petty Clinic Low T can set up same-day blood screening and results. So if you're tired of being tired, call or go online at pettycliniclowt.com. It's a private clinic with an atmosphere catering to men. Affordable, only $165 a month, including lab work, office consultation, testosterone injections, and follow-up visits, compared to $300 or more a month in Dallas or Austin, and you don't have to drive 90 miles one way or the other and fight the traffic. Petty Clinic Low T has board-certified physician consultations and will provide the best form of brand-strength testosterone. Contact Petty Clinic Low T for increased energy, improvement in sexual desire and performance, mood, concentration, even a decrease in body and belly fat. Just off Highway 84 and Old Hewitt Drive in Woodway, pettycliniclowt.com.
It's time for Paul Catalina's Top 5, brought to you by Texas Beef House. Where's the best beef in Texas? Your house when you order from Texas Beef House. Unleash the flavor of Texas-raised Wagyu. From our pasture to your plate, TexasBeefHouse.com.
All right, top 5 reasons Colorado's moving, but before we get to that, Craig Smoak has some more information.
Yes, just scouring through the various Twitter messages and reports surrounding the story of Colorado. Brett McMurphy, who's been all over this. I mean, you talk about a guy who's taken his fair share of strays over the last couple of years with reporting about realignment. But he just put this out. Colorado has scheduled a Board of Regents meeting for a second consecutive day Thursday, which we already knew that, but where the Buffs are expected to discuss and approve a move to the Big 12, sources told Action Network HQ. It was 98%, and that's actually the wrong one. That was... okay, here it goes. So that was his initial report. My apologies where he reported what was going on, but here's the update. Colorado leaving Pac-12 to return to Big 12 in 2024. CU will receive a full Big 12 share, $31.7 million from the ESPN Fox media deal. The Buffs left because of Big 12 stability and Pac-12's uncertainty, sources said. Announcement Thursday. So there you go from Brett McMurphy. That's the general thing of what's been going on, but a little bit more in terms of specifics. A full Big 12 share, announcement on Thursday, kind of know the reasons why they're leaving, but stability versus uncertainty is what it boiled down to. And, that uncertainty train was about to hit like its 100th lap at this point. And I think for Colorado, it's clear that they were just tired of it, man. They wanted a little bit more of a sure thing, and it appears that's what they're going to get in the Big 12. So just another little update there.
Kim Coulter, Super Chat. Great show. Thank you, Kim. Always
Kim.
appreciate you. Kim's a good dude. Anyway, let's get to this. And on that, number 5, and thank you, Brett McMurphy, no stable future in the Pac-12. There's just, you cannot look at it and say, I know where this conference is going to be for sure, and nobody can in the next TV deal. But really, they cannot look at it and say, I don't know where this conference is going to be attention-wise in 2 years. Once USC and UCLA are gone, and you're playing games without that LA market, without all of that, you just can't say. You really can't. So...
Yeah, I mean, I think we all want to know what our futures look like, and certainly there's a little bit of a mystery always that we'll never quite know for sure, and a lot of unexpected things can happen. But as far as an athletics department goes, yeah, you can nail down where you're going to play and the money you're going to make and who you're going to be against and where you're going to go and all those different types of things. And I don't think that there's even a comparison to be made right now on what Brett Yormark has going on with the Big 12 at the moment. And what George Kliavkoff has, especially after last Friday with the Pac-12. There is a conference that is being bold and a little bit brash even, but is moving forward with confidence and a calculated plan. And then there's the other side that says, just trust us. And they've been saying that for well over a year now. And they've had, various reports every time something starts to get a little stale or quiet or, I guess, negative. No, something's coming. It's just the number of TV suitors.
Yeah.
Like last Friday, the deal's going to be even better because of how long we're waiting. And, I think just after a while, people in positions of power, they need to know what's what and what's real. And unfortunately for the Pac-12, they couldn't provide that soon enough for Colorado, it seems.
Yep. Number 4, the current members are not on the same page. I've been saying this for months. The thing that the Big 12 has, that the SEC has, and the Big 12 is just new to it, the SEC has, the Big Ten has now, the ACC is now struggling with this, but the current members of the Pac-12 are not all on the same page about where they want to be long-term. So, Oregon and Washington, after USC and UCLA, have to feel like, where do we stand in this? We could either maybe run this league, or this league will be run into the ground. And then where are we at the end of this when the game of musical chairs stops? Cal and Stanford have completely different views of what athletic success means, in the modern era. And then you've got, schools like Oregon State and Washington State. They're very different than the other ones. You've got the Four Corner schools. You don't have... all Big 12 schools on the same page right now trying to make sure that league gets bigger. The SEC knows that, they're out for world domination, and so does the Big 10. The ACC is going to be dealing with this over the next years, too, and that they're going to have people that are like, well, why are we here with Wake Forest? That's what's going to bug the
why
ACC
are we,
teams.
Making this much compared to Wake Forest.
Exactly, yeah. So, what are we doing, when we're driving the ship here? So that is going to lead to discontent, and I say this based on not only the history of the Pac-12, because there's always kind of been discontent in that league historically. They fought with each other like crazy all the time. But we watched it happen here in the Big 12, Craig. It was a conference based on mistrust the whole time. And this is the first time that they've had it. The Pac-12 has it now, and you can only ride that wave for so long before it kicks you into the rocks.
Yeah, I mean, there's clearly some different viewpoints. I mean, I'm sure there are some that would appreciate just the academic side of things, and that's more of their vested interest. And there are others that I think clearly want to be successful in athletics as well and want to be at the top of the game as best they can be or as high as they can be. And, yeah, not everybody's clearly on the same page because I don't think everybody's following Colorado out the door. There will be those that stay pat and wait the rest of it out, and there might be others that jump ship. But, yeah, I mean, at this point, this is the type of thing where it doesn't even matter what everybody says. You can't trust anybody, no matter the relationship, and you got to watch out for your own. And I think
it's like an episode of Big Brother, really.
Yeah. No, it's true, though. It's like Survivor. And I think that Colorado just said, well, we don't know who all's going to be on the island, but we're not going to be the last ones. And we're getting out of here, and good luck to the rest of you. And if you want to follow along, great. We'll put in a good word, but we're not going to be the last one, turning out the lights here on this conference and waiting on a TV deal. So I don't blame them for just having their patience run out or feeling like they need to move. And now I'm just curious of, who else may be eyeing the same thing, and what do some of those conversations between members look like?
Yep. Number 3, the Pac-12 was not great on the field for them. They suffered a lot. We talked about this just recently. This is a way better move. They were way more successful when they were in the Big 12 and the Big 8. I mean, when they were in the Big 8, 2 of the most memorable moments in college football happened to them. The 5th down play against Mizzou and the Hail Mary from Cordell Stewart to Michael Westbrook that beat Michigan. I mean, but since then, what's memorable that's happened at Colorado? Bad things. They're not writing, when the Pac-12, the Colorado super fans are talking about their favorite memories of the Pac-12, they're going to have to pick out, like, remember that one time we beat Oregon, or whatever it is. It's not, it's not Cordell Stewart's Hail Mary. It's not winning the national championship. It's not, winning a conference title.
Buddy, they're about to be the big. Let's not run them all off before they get here. but I know what you mean.
Yeah,
they were not good in the Pac-12. They were not good. They were not notable in most ways. They appeared in a championship game several years ago, and that was about the height of their powers. As compared to when they, exited the Big 12, they had appeared in some championship games. They had, had some successes. They had some rivals and things like that. And, the geography led to some rivalries or what have you, and probably some great things off the field. But on the field, pure football-related product, speaking alone of that, no, it's a shell of what we knew it to be when it was a member of the Big 12, when it was a member of the Big 8, and it can do better because it has done better. And I think with Deion at the helm, NIL, a better contract with a conference that's a little bit more sturdier ground, that adds up to Colorado trying to reclaim their glory years and return to those heights. And who could blame them?
Yeah, Hayden Maxwell, thanks for the super chat. He mentions Jason Scheer. Hayden, rewind the show a little bit. He was on about an hour and a half ago.
Right after all this started to pop off.
Right after all this. So he talks about that. Hayden. Number 2, Deion Sanders wanted this to happen. And, Dave Aranda couldn't walk into Mac Rhodes and say, I would like to be in this conference.
I can't imagine him asking for that. To hearing his voice, like how soft did it?
Sonny Dykes couldn't do it at TCU.
No,
I mean, so
not after the Georgia result. maybe before that he could have, but no.
But yeah, look, they can't. There's not many guys. There's probably 5 coaches in the country that could, and 4 of them are in the conference that they're gonna stay in. They're not gonna leave.
Smart, etc.
Yeah. So Deion Sanders wanted this to happen, and when they asked, "What do you think?" he said, "I'd like to be in the Big 12. That would make it a lot easier on me, and I'd be a lot happier if I could recruit in Texas." And they said, "Yes, Deion, we've got you. No problem, Coach Prime." And that's what you have to do. If you've got the most excitement around your program, you have to try to ride the wave as much as you can. And that's certainly here with Deion Sanders.
Yeah, they've got lightning in a bottle, and they're trying to do what they can with it while they've got it. And, you can worry or fret about something that could happen after this football season or 2 years down the line or whatever. But who's to say Deion's not finding his footing in the Big 12 and getting big recruiting classes because of his ties and just his star profile and, is the new team on top of the Big 12. Who's to say? Who's to say he doesn't move somewhere else? But right now, they've got a very precious little moment in time where all of the cards are lined up for them to make big moves, and they've made a few of those already. Now they're potentially making another one as soon as tomorrow. And I respect and I appreciate that they're going big, and they're not going to, let this moment go by. They're going to swing for the fences, knowing there might not be another little wrinkle in time like this for them. Like this might be their biggest chance to take the biggest swing they can. So respect to them for looking at it that way and following through on it.
By the way, I'd like to mention Mac Rhodes is off the grid this week.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, something always. Yeah, we usually have him on every week, but he has been on vacation. Yep. I just wanted to pass this along. Max Olson, our good buddy, said he just spoke to Arizona President Robert Robbins, who's been very vocal throughout this process, and he asked him about today's Colorado news, and Robbins said, quote, all I keep saying is, we're just waiting to get a deal, and then everybody has to evaluate the deal on its merits. I've been pretty steadfast in that stance. So, don't know what the heck that means other than it sounds like Arizona's going to sit and just keep waiting on what.
Well, and look, I don't think like the Big 12, if Arizona says, "Hey, we're going to wait a little longer," they're going to be like, "Well, okay." I mean, they've got what they needed right now with this momentum, so they can start planning. And number one, no media deal in sight. It's not like there might be, but right now there isn't one that Colorado could say, is it better than $31.7 million? Is it going to make our conference better? Is it linear? Is it this? Is it that? They don't know. And it was made clear of that on Friday when it's probably to them on Thursday. And then on Friday when George Kliavkoff was like, oh, we're waiting gives us more partners, but we're not going to announce it on purpose today because of that. So what was it? Are you waiting or to get more partners or you have something? So that was, and I know a lot of people say, well, don't read too much into that, but it was so telling last Friday that press conference.
I listened to the advice and I didn't try to read too much into it, but I definitely but what I did say though was you can take it however you want to take it, right? Mm-hmm. That's what I kept saying. How did I phrase that? It was
it was in the eye of the beholder.
Eye of the beholder is what I called it. Yeah, it's like eye of the beholder. It's like if you were a Pac-12, pro Pac-12 person of like they're going to get a deal, they're going to get it done, doesn't matter the timeline, doesn't matter, nobody's leaving, then you heard what Kliavkoff said and it didn't really change your tune or your mind at all. If you were somebody that said, oh my gosh, that's the shoe that needed to drop, the whole conference is about to fall apart, or at least they're going to have some exits, then you could have read that as well. I mean, it really was an eye of the beholder type of thing, but for those who looked into it and saw, that's some cracks in the armor and they're starting to leak a little bit, it appears that you were right, and there's not remaining patience around the entire league to sit and keep waiting on this TV deal that really has no end in sight of being completed, no matter how many industry execs want to say, like, this is normal, or how many people want to proclaim that this is just a natural, lengthy negotiation because of the streaming part of this and it being so brand new, and that's causing delay. Like, whatever the reason's been for why this has taken so long, it's taken too long clearly for one school and perhaps for some others, and there's still no end in sight, as you mentioned here. So I don't know what that means ultimately for the Pac-12 and when that could get done, but it's unless something drastically changes in the next 24 hours, this time tomorrow we'll be talking about Colorado's officially voted to be in the Big 12.
Yeah.
And we'll have been talking about that for probably a couple of hours, actually, or at least an hour. I doubt that the CW or Apple or someone's going to come like Superman flying in the next 24 hours to change minds. But, it's not official till it's official. But I can officially say that I don't think they're getting a media deal in the next 24 hours or one that would even cause a much of a change of what seems to be happening right now.
All right. And look, last up before we go, Hayden Maxwell, another super chat. Hayden, we love you, buddy. Thank you so much. Which would y'all pick, Oregon or Washington, would actually happen, since we know it's neither Cal School or Washington State or Oregon State?
Yeah, I don't want to read too much into Jason's statement. Yeah. But he's been pretty on board with everything that he's said. Obviously today he's a guy who can feel pretty good about, a lot of the stuff that he talked about and defended. But if I had a preference, I don't know. I've never given that thought. Oregon just jumps out as like that's the cool team, but I think Washington's pretty cool too. Yeah. I'd probably say Oregon. I feel like that's just a little bit more.
To me, it's splitting hairs.
I'm with you.
I would
1A, 1B.
Yeah, 1A, 1B. I would.
I'd be thrilled with either.
Yeah,
if you were a Big 12, fan, I'd be thrilled with either joining. So I don't think there's much of a separation. I think you'd be happy with either one. But that's certainly going to be the next question. Is all right. Once that becomes official tomorrow, if and when, then what's the pivot for everybody else? And is the Big Ten just sitting back there just waiting in the wings, or is there something else that we don't see coming? I don't know, but that's a whole new can of worms that'll be opened up here in 24 hours or less.
Yeah, and look, Autzen Stadium is college football bucket list. Seattle's a great, huge, big market. It's Seattle awesome, really fun town most of the time when you go there. So, yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much to everybody who tuned in today live. Over 1,000 of you at once. We appreciate every single view, no matter how long, no matter if you love watching us or hate watching us, whatever you're doing. If you're watching, we appreciate you taking your time. We've had a blast on the show today. Tomorrow scheduled to appear Max Olson and Stuart Mandel of The Athletic and SMU coach Rhett Lashley. We'll have more. We'll try to, it might be a little malleable based on some of the news, but we're going to bring you the same coverage tomorrow. We'll bring the heat. This is 365 Sports.